What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Fantasy Files podcast, where we talk about our favorite fantasy series and topics. We are your co-hosts, Spencer and Gabe, joined by Jake, Don't Skip, Live Ship Bishop, to continue our Dresden Files read along today with Small Favor, the 10th book in the series. We'll introduce Jake in just a moment, but first, if you like this content, please body slam those like and subscribe buttons down below. And remember that every time you do, Gabe gets another chance at escaping my basement by trying to make it to the end of the hall to the exit, which is guarded by 6 hungry pit bulls. So do the right thing and hit those buttons. But you know what isn't guarded by pit bulls? Our Twitter and Discord server, both of which are linked below in the description, as well as our second channel where we talk about movies, TV shows, and video games. So check that out if that interests you. With all that out of the way, let's introduce our guest, Jake. Dude, first of all, thank you seriously for coming on.
Yeah, no problem. I'm always happy for collabs, especially Dresden collabs, because most collabs I'm like, I'm gonna have to read or reread that book. Dresden,
right.
I'm just like, okay, let's go.
I know exactly what's going on.
I know. I feel like Dresden is always kind of like a safe collab, or like even just like a safe episode, since like most of us who are really into the series have read it a few times. And so it's always nice to be like, oh yeah, I've read that book, I could do that.
And even if it's reading it so many times, even if it's been like a year or two, like you could still like talk about it and know what's going on.
You can still bullshit.
We got one of the ones I've read more as well. I've read a couple more than Small Favor, but I think I've probably read Small Favor a good 8 times. So I think we should be okay.
Yeah, we'll be golden.
Yeah, always happy to be on collabs in general, but especially Dresden collabs.
Yeah, for sure. I was telling you guys behind the backstage, I was saying that I had caught some of your Dresden Files content, and I was like, this guy is really knowledgeable about Dresden. And so I was like, dude, you should come on sometime and have like more like deeper Dresden conversations than we've usually had. So I think this will be really fun. But yeah, do you want to tell people like who you are, what you do on your channel, and where people can follow you?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Jake. I have a general book related channel. It has Dresden on it, but it is by no means only Dresden. I read primarily fantasy. I'd say favorite authors are Jim Butcher, pretty varied mix. Ready for people with very little stylistic similarities, except like 2 of them. Jim Butcher, Guy Gavriel Kay, Brandon Sanderson, and Robin Hobb on a good day would be my 4. Actually, on basically every day would be my 4 favorite writers. I mostly do classic booktube stuff, like the completely original idea of reviewing books that I'm pretty sure I invented, patent pending. Sometimes I have wrap-up videos. We're ready for this. I came up with this idea where I talk about all the books I read in a month.
Nice,
it's totally new stuff. It's gonna
groundbreaking.
Yeah, you're the flagship.
There's this website that no one has ever heard of before until I came up with it, which is Tier List Makers. I sometimes use those for videos. And yeah, I try and I do relatively in-depth reviews that are spoiler free to try and help people actually tell if they would like a book based on both how I can communicate it stylistically, and if you know my taste, what you tend to agree with me on and what you don't. I try and read more new stuff, but I still love rereading, and Dresden is my every once in a while destroys the TBR when we're in a slump, and I just grab like 5 random Dresden books. And I'm mostly just on YouTube. I technically have a Twitter, but I barely use it, so I don't even link it because it's frankly completely it's just like you're gonna see likes on a completely bizarre mix of topics that I'm sure like 3 other people in the world care about. So yeah, I'll probably just have my channel linked below.
Okay, cool. For sure. All right, so since we're doing a Dresden Files episode, do you want to talk about like how you got into Dresden Files, or how long you've been reading it? And then what your favorite book is, or top 3 or whatever?
Sure. So I'm the unicorn who read Codex Alera first. There are at least 3 of us. And then after I'd read Codex Alera like twice, I was like, hey, this guy has some urban fantasy wizard detective books. So I was like, all right, I'll try those. I really like the Alera series. Let's check out the other stuff. So then I read Stormfront and I was like, well, that was fun. I mean, it wasn't as good as Aller or anything. And then, you know, I got a few more books in and I was like, oh, that was a pretty damn good book. That was maybe almost as good as some of Aller. And then I got a few more in and I was like, this is good as Aller? What's going on? And then, you know, I got a few books later and I'm like, wait a second. This is better than Aller. What's going on? This wasn't what I was expecting.
Yeah.
And then I was in like a 5-year phase where I didn't read many new books and we're just rereading things over and over again. And a lot of that was Dresden. Not all of it, but a substantial amount.
Yeah.
I generally didn't like it. I haven't gone through the entire series straight that many times. It's more just like I'll just be like, you know, I'll get reminded of something and like Deadbeat, and I'll be like, oh, that was cool. Let's go read Deadbeat. And then I'll be like, well, I mean, I should be proven guilty now. Then,
right.
You know,
Yeah. On and on it goes.
I think that's kind of the great thing about Dresden Files, though. Like, even though later in the series they get more like bigger story arcs, really, after you've read everything, after you've kind of been spoiled to everything, you really can go in and just pick one and not feel like you're being dropped in the middle of some random story. They're all pretty standalone-y kind of.
Yeah, he does a pretty spectacular job of like balancing the 1 book long arcs with like the 2 to 5 book long arcs with like the really big arcs with then like what will presumably be, you know, 25 book long arcs that we're getting into right now.
Yeah.
And my favorite Dresden book is the most unoriginal pick ever, but it still changes. I still remember getting to that title and being like, wait, it's only 1 word?
Yeah.
There's a reason. Is this a mistake? Is this the wrong book? And then reading it and having my mind absolutely blown.
Yes.
I actually think some of the later installments are more impressively done. Like, I think they're a better execution of what they're trying to be. But Changes is just exactly like the type of story and the type of stakes I like the most. So even if like gun to my head, I'm like, Jim was a better writer when he wrote Skin Game and he's a better writer when he wrote Battleground, Changes is still my favorite. Although there's some knocking on that door.
Nice. Yeah, that's a great answer. All right, so let's go through what we've been reading lately, and this kind of consists of you know, both books or TV shows or movies, whatever you've kind of read or watched in the past couple weeks. Now, Gabe has quite the list here because
I do. Yes.
He has been on an absolute tear. Dude, I've been so surprised with how many books you've consumed recently.
Yeah, dude.
So let's just start at the beginning here. Tell me about Unwind.
Okay. Yeah, so these books, man, they're kind of a sci-fi like dystopian book. And the basis of it is there was this big war, like pro-life, pro-choice. So these people went to war or whatnot, both sides, and they finally came up with a mandate that was once your children turn 13, you can 13 to 18 years old, you can select them to be unwound, which means you kill them and all their body parts go to other people. And so the story is about this kid who's selected to get unwound. And it's kind of just his journey of like running away and finding this group of other people that are going to get unwound and kind of like trying to topple this regime of crazy government shit. And so I think it's 5 books, right? Or 4?
Yeah.
5 books. And so, yeah, I finished that like quick. I was like almost a book a day. It was so engrossing, so good. And so I burned through that. Wonderful ending. I wish there was more. It was one of those things where I was like, why does it have to end here, dude? You know?
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, because I haven't gotten to the final book yet.
Oh, it's so good, dude. It's so good.
The finale was a good one?
Finale was a good one. Like I said, like it was a great ending, but like it just leaves you itching for the rest of the story, you know? And so it's kind of like just one of those things. But so that was, you know, that took me like a week, 6 days.
Would you say it's better than Scythe?
Oh, that's a tough question. So I think I love them both. I think Scythe is a better book, or I liked it more. But Unwind in its own way, the plot is so unique that it's like kind of like, you know, it kind of stands apart from everything else. Mind you, Scythe is pretty unique too, but I think that Unwind just got this idea that's like so sporadic, original and sporadic, and just kind of this way out thing, which was, you know, yeah, in its own right, it's great. And I wouldn't put one past the other, but I think I'd probably lean more towards the Scythe series.
Yeah.
And then after that, Spencer told me to read Warbreaker. And so you guys, everybody's going to get mad about this. I didn't really care for it that much.
That's so surprising because I read it for the first time this last week or so too. And I was like, I could not believe how good it was. Like I thought it was so incredible. And I was like, if Gabe can get past the first like hour, I'm like, I think that he would absolutely love this.
Yeah, and so there's like, not to interrupt you, but there's pieces that like were really like awesome. Like I loved everything with the God King and that whole entire,
arc.
All this, the arc that happens. I was really engrossed in that. But then there were other arcs that I was just like, it doesn't pull me in, like, that much. Like,
so
like I don't want to say it's a bad book because it's not. I did enjoy the whole thing, but it's not super high on my scale.
Yeah.
It's the least Cosmere, it's the least Brandon like Brandon book.
Well, then that makes me feel better because I love, I freaking love other Brandon Sanderson
books. That's why I don't recommend people start with Warbreaker, even though like at face value, it makes a lot of sense. It's like standalone. I really like it. Like similar quality to other books. Is useful for future Cosmere stuff. Doesn't need to have any Cosmere prerequisites, but I think it's just a really bad predictor of whether you'll like the rest of the Cosmere.
That would make
which
sense.
is why I have people read it later. And it's some people it's like their favorite, and it's some people it's their least favorite, and I'm like, up there
for sure. So now, that makes me feel better. Thank you. I don't feel as bad. And then
real quick, real quick though, what did you think of the graphic audio like itself? Like the actual,
it was great.
Production.
It was great. The production was awesome.
Yeah, I think it's probably like the best graphic audio I've heard besides maybe like Impact Winter.
Yep, I would yes. That
because
book's freaking great.
Dude, all of the little like sound cues and stuff, like they weren't too loud. They never like really overshadowed the voice. And the 3 or 4 like narrators who actually did the voices, I was just like, I just want to hear these same guys do more books. The lady that did the both of the sisters with their like Scottish accent. I was like, oh my God, I could just listen to her. Forever. Like,
I totally agree.
I'm like, I just want to hear everything she's ever done.
Huh.
Yeah, in the graphic audio, the narrator who did the girls' voices, she had like a Scottish accent, and it was beautiful. Like it was, oh my, it was incredible.
It was really nice. And all the sounds they did, my big thing with graphic audio is that the sound, the sword, like the sword coming out of the sheath, like shing, all that stuff. If it overpowers somebody talking, I'm not gonna read it. Like I'm done. But they did a super good job with it. And then so after Warbreaker, I was kind of looking around. I don't know if we've told you guys this, but I'm currently logged into Spencer's Audible. And so now I have access to all of his books and the ones that I have saved on my phone. So I was going through, I'm like, what should I read? And I rolled past a book called Hex. I forget who the author is, but basically it's just kind of a standalone horror book. And I was like, I'm going to give it a shot. And it's about this. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, I think it's Thomas Old Hewbolt.
Okay. That sounds right. Yeah. It's a Swedish. It was a Swedish book that got an English representation or whatever that's called. And it was really good. It's about this little town called, I'm pretty sure it's Black Rock. That basically this town has been cursed for 300 years by this witch. And this witch, oh man, I'm going to forget her name. Do you remember?
I don't.
Kathy?
I just called her the witch. I don't know.
The witch. So there's this witch that back in the whatever 1600s she was killed.
Salem trial days.
So yeah, exactly. And so she was killed. The people thought that her son died, and they thought that she brought her son back to life. And so she was stoned to death and burned at the pyre and whatnot. And so her like ghost, you could say, her apparition has been haunting this town since then. And so it's kind of like a modern take on it's hard to explain. Modern take on kind of an older, like philosophical ghost story. But basically she wanders around this town, like she's always there. And this town has like set up this app to like watch her and stuff. It's called the Hex app. And so the story's about like kind of her like deviating from her, because apparently day to day, like
she does the same thing.
12:05, she walks from here to here and she stands there. She's got change. Her eyes are like sewn shut and stuff. And then these kids like do a prank on her and she falls over, and that's just like the catalyst to this crazy ass ending, dude. I don't want to say more because I'll give it away, but it was really good. It wasn't like scary, but it was more of like thriller to me.
Yeah.
And the ending I was really surprised about, and I really did like the ending.
Nice.
It's kind of, yeah.
Yeah, that's I'm glad that you liked it, because
Yeah.
I wasn't going to recommend it to you originally because I didn't like it that much. I thought it was fine, but I think a mix of like the narrator and just like the story wasn't quite what I thought it was going to be. And so to hear that you really liked it, I'm like, oh, I'm glad that he enjoyed that.
Yeah. And after reading Kings of the Wild, it was like, that was one thing I struggled with, was listening to, because they both do the same, or same narrator, both books. And so it was like weird to like, because some of the voices, I was like, oh my God, that's freaking Moog, or not Moog, but like that's one of the guys from that book. And so that was not really challenging, but just like I could see why you say like you wanted a different narrator. I would probably agree. I think somebody could have made it more suspenseful and more scary, but overall, yeah, it was great. And then last one, I know I'm taking a lot of time. So
no, you're good.
Currently, I told Spencer, I'm like, I'm on a horror kick. Like I want something else scary. And he's like, all right, you should read the Netherwell Horror. And I was like, okay, sweet. And dude, this is by far the goriest, most violent book that I have ever read in my life, dude. Like there's some scenes that are so visceral. I'm like, I don't even, like, all I can do is see that. Like all I can see is that, dude. Guys, yeah. Nice stuff. But the story's good. It's kind of like a culty, cult trying to end the world. Lovecraftian, yeah, book. And so I've got like 12 minutes left on that. I'm gonna finish it when we're done. Yeah, done here.
Oh, cool.
And then, yeah, that's it for me.
Do you know what you're reading next?
I have no idea, dude. I was actually gonna ask you, what should I read next?
Okay, yeah. Lies of Loch Lamora.
Oh, I know you're gonna say that.
Good choice.
Seconded. I know I should. Seconded by me. All right. You guys win. I'll try it. I'll give it the 3-hour shot. 3 hours.
I love the prologue, so.
Here's the thing. If you can, like, no matter how you feel about the book, if you can just get through the first book, I think the second and third book will be like exactly like every time I read the second and third book, I think of you, because I'm like, I understand why Gabe wouldn't like the first book, but the second and third are like, they're just like fun, like adventure stories.
Okay. How long is the first book?
It's like 8 hours or 9 hours.
So then for me, it's like 4. I can do that, dude.
Yeah.
8 hours or 9 hours. That's a.
I read it like 2 times speed on Audible. So I just cut it in half, whatever the thing is.
But yeah, I ended up reading it because I had a bunch of books and I didn't know what to read, and I read all the prologues, and that was my favorite prologue of the ones I read. So
I can understand why the prologue would be confusing to some, because I don't think I was a big fan of the prologue the first time I read it. But then when I reread it multiple times now, and now I like the prologue, but I don't think I did when I first read it. I was kind of waiting for them. I'm like, get to the big like heist. I want to see action and these thieves doing stuff, and it takes a while to get there. But when it does, it doesn't let up.
I remember being like, oh, this is like these characters are like really good. They're like, this is a really good character book, probably gonna be 4-star. And then the plot hit me like a train.
Yeah.
And then it was 4 a.m. And the book was done.
Yeah. And the narrator who does the audiobooks for those is like one of the best in the business.
He better be good, because the banter in that book, in that entire series, is so good.
Like he perfects it. Like, Jake, if there's one book that you should listen to the audiobook for, it's Lies of Loch Lamora.
I could try. Like, if we get a Thorn of Emberlane, I could do review it on audio. Am I allowed to swear on this?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah.
I just want to say, you'll get back to this later. Nice bird asshole.
Nice bird asshole.
Gabriel, you'll understand that reference in like I don't know, like a day or two.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll laugh.
Awesome. Love that scene.
All All right, Jake, what have you been reading lately?
So right now I'm rereading a book because it ended up being the University Book Club book, and it is by the aforementioned guy Gabriel K. Which, speak of Nicholas Ames, if you ask Nicholas Ames, hey, who's the best writer, he'll be like, this dude.
Nice.
Okay.
This is his 5th book. He does a lot of like really historical based stuff, so it's kind of like settings clearly based on history, but with an element of fantasy. If you want to know why, people are sometimes like, why don't you just do historical fiction? And he has an essay about it, and it's a much better answer than I could give, so I don't even try and give it instead of him. If anyone who actually cares, I just Google. I'll probably comment it at something, or just Google Guy Gabriel K Quarter Turn to Fantastical. It'll come up.
Okay.
This is it's following largely around the conflict of two. It's set in kind of like a France-ish type place, and a kind of conflict between two of like the sub-nations of France, because France wasn't one big thing at this time. It was like 5 sub-nations, and the conflict between 2 of them, centering around a mercenary who was born in like the northern Ngorhau but is working in Arbonne. There is the only thing stopping this from being one of my favorite Guy Gabriel K books is there are like one of the places in like Arbonne has a bunch of like troubadours. It's a bit too much troubadours for my taste, but like really great political scheming. Guy Gabriel K's writing is just like, if you really like kind of more poetic prose, which sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, but man can write like, I'm fairly sure he could just write like, this person does day-to-day things, and like I wouldn't love it, but I'd be like, okay, it wasn't bad though.
Right.
And obviously he doesn't write that because that'd be boring.
Yeah.
So yeah, rereading this, I already know I like it. Guess what? Still really like it.
Yep.
This is staring at me. I gotta get this done, but I'm busy because exams, because I finally have this in my hands. Book depository.
Oh, nice.
Was really
dude.
slow
nice.
to get it to me. I've been waiting. I read Bands of Morning on release day, so I've been waiting
Whoa, cool.
this for a good while.
Cool.
But I don't want to interrupt Arbonne. And then before that, I was reading Veiled Throne, which is the 3rd book of the Dandelion Dynasty. That I've got to read along on my channel if anyone cares. That series is complicated. I'm not going to try and explain what's going on in book 3, but there's randomly a cooking contest in book 3, and it somehow I managed to not think it was stupid, which is actually pretty impressive.
So how is that series as a whole? I feel like BookTube is really divisive.
Dandelion?
Yeah.
So Dandelion, I really like it. Book 1 is very different than what you'd expect, like in most fantasies, and that's very zoomed out. Like it's 3rd person omniscient. And I mean, like it literally, there's a bunch of like series where it's like there's a first series and then a second series. It really feels like Ken Liu took an entire first series and was just like one book now.
Whoa. Like
that thing's gotta have, I don't know, like it doesn't have double-digit civil wars, but it tries. So it's very like zoomed out. There are a couple more like zoomed in scenes, and I still like enjoy the characters in it, but it's very like zoomed out and plot driven. And then the next books read more normal for a fantasy series. So I think one reason it's divisive is you have to like both styles, because if you don't like the zoomed out style, you don't make it to book 2. And if you don't want the normal style, then you're gonna only like book 1.
Right.
So, and also, yeah, it's like it's got a pretty big world, a lot of names. But so I can see why it doesn't have like full mass appeal. I think book 1 is the more divisive one. Most people seem to like Wall of Storms. That being said, there's always the sequel bias where it's like all the people reading Wall of Storms liked Grace of Kings enough to read Wall of Storms. So who knows if all the people who gave Grace of Kings 1 star read Wall of Storms, who knows what they would think. And Grace of Kings also has the worst review on Goodreads. Has a 1-star review that's like, this is like just plagiarism, and I can't support plagiarism, in like 3 paragraphs of that. Whoa. And then you're like, oh, what are you plagiarizing? Oh, this history book. It's plagiarizing reality. It pulls elements from history. Yikes. That's just historical. Anyway, so that tilts me, and yeah.
Nice.
I have to ask really quick, and I just don't know. What is 3rd person omniscient?
Okay, so 3rd person omniscient is when there's a narrator like describing things, not the character, who knows everything. So they know like everyone's thoughts.
Okay.
So it's like Dune, where it like zooms between various
that makes
people's
sense.
thoughts.
Okay.
Compared to like 3rd person limited would be like
where they don't know what the fuck's
where
going
it'd be
on,
like
except for that
Warbreaker.
person.
Warbreaker, it's like the narrator only knows what like Siri knows.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. I finished Warbreaker. Obviously, I loved it. I loved it so much that I considered making it like one of my top 5 books of the year.
Oh.
And I was like, okay, I can't do that. I feel like because it's so hard to like at the end of the year doing like a top 5, it's so easy to like have recency bias and be like after just reading a really good book being like, oh, it's my top 5 of the year.
Yeah.
And so I feel like a lot of things that have made it into my top 5 are things that I read like earlier in the year to kind of avoid that recency bias. So unfortunately, it probably won't be making it into my top 5, but I did really, really love it. And I went straight from Warbreaker onto Elantris. And that, if I'm not mistaken, is the very first book that Sanderson had ever published.
It was his debut, and then he also wrote about another 5 books after that before it got accepted. So he wrote the Final Empire was like his 11th or 12th book, and Elantris was like his 6th or 7th.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, so Elantris, man, I had a lot of people telling me like, oh yeah, it's his least good. I can speak. It's not
You'll get there.
It's not his best work. And I totally disagree. Like I don't know. I don't know if I liked it as much as Warbreaker, just because it's so different.
So have you finished it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I finished Elantris and I really enjoyed it. Again, like it wouldn't make it into my top 5, but I really had a great time with it. And I thought the graphic audio wasn't as good as Warbreaker, but it was still fine. I still enjoyed it. I had no problems with the audio whatsoever. And I just thought it was a good story. And so, like, if you don't know, basic plot is there's this land where there's kind of like these 2 cities right next to each other, and one of them is called Elantris. And it used to be like this kingdom of like these gods, like this super advanced civilization that like had this magic, and they were basically like immortal and they could do all sorts of like crazy things. And then one day, like their power just went away. Like they're just one day, like out of nowhere, it was like they had no more power. They like kind of devolved from their immortal form and became humans that had like all of these, they were just like completely broken. And ever since then, at random times, I forget what it's called, but this random thing will happen to the people in the other city. It like comes through in the middle of the night and they turn into what is essentially an Elantrian, but they don't have the immortality. So they wake up with all these like sores all over their face, and they're all kind of just like broken and they look like they're dying. And so they get sent into basically the abandoned city of Elantris. And what happens in there, they kind of lock the gates and they lock all these people who have this affliction in Elantris. And part of what the affliction does, if this thing happens to you and you turn into one of these things, if you stub your toe, like your toe will be forever stubbed. Like that pain will never go away. It'll never lessen. It'll never get easier. That pain is always there. So if you break your hand, you're in that pain forever. And so it's this really interesting idea. It's just like this whole city of these kind of people, and you see other people on the side of the road who their whole body is just like broken from getting like attacked in an alley or something, and they're just there moaning forever because they don't die and they're always in that same pain. It's always the same as when it first happened. And so it's pretty wild. And so basically our story starts with a prince, and this thing happens in the middle of the night. He wakes up with all these sores and he gets sent into Elantris, and his whole mission is to like make Elantris better. And he kind of like tries to unify everybody in there, because Elantris has kind of devolved into all of these like gangs and all these people like trying to steal from each other. There's no food, and so any newcomer that comes into the city, they immediately like attack the newcomer and try to take like whatever food they have and stuff. And everybody's like super cautious about getting hurt because it's debilitating.
Yep.
So while he's doing that, he was also supposed to get married. And so the day that he goes into Elantris, his wife from another kingdom that he's supposed to marry comes in on a ship, and she's like, "Where's my husband?" And they tell her that he's dead because they don't want to tell her that he's in Elantris. She kind of has like this binding thing. Sorry, I know I'm going really into it. I'm almost done. She kind of has like this binding thing that it like she is now the princess. Like she is considered married to this guy. And so she's able to make political moves within the kingdom. And all these things kind of start connecting, and the magic is really cool. There's like these orbs that are like little spirits, and they follow, usually like the nobles have them, and they like follow them around and they talk to them. They're like an assistant. And just the whole thing was like really, really interesting. And again, like it wasn't like the best thing I ever read, but I had a lot of fun with it. And so for you, Gabe, it's interesting because I don't know where I fall on this. I'm like, this could either be a book that like Gabe just doesn't like, or it could be something that he loves. And I have no idea which way you'll fall on it.
So what that says to me is that I need to try it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yep.
And
dude,
I feel like it's slow in certain parts, but if you got like halfway through, I think you'd be like, oh, this is cool. Like things are happening. I understand what's going on, you know?
Yep, definitely.
Do not hit your funny bone in Elantris.
Yeah, dude, could you imagine? Oh my
just
God.
Just forever, just tingling,
or
freaking
like,
out. Screw that, dude.
Or like getting kicked in the balls.
Oh,
no. Dude.
He went there, man. I was more thinking like getting a shiner on your shin or something, you know?
Oh my God. It'd be so terrible.
I wonder if, so, you know, like if you burn yourself, like if you don't do anything, like it keeps hurting more. I wonder if that's how she helped in Elantris. Like it just stays at like the initial amount of pain and doesn't keep getting worse.
Dude. But it
there
never
has to
heals.
be some bonus.
Like,
yeah, there has to be some bonus. Yeah, I don't know. I loved, like, I did love the book. I wouldn't say that it was like I loved it, but I liked it more than I usually like, you know, your average book. So
nice.
Yeah, definitely a recommend from me.
Awesome.
All right, we got to get into we got to get into small favor here.
It's been an hour, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's just do the audience a small favor and get on topic. And favor not with a U. Even though I'm from Canada and the word favor has a U, that ruins the pattern. They have to be the same amount of letters.
Is it really in Canada?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
We have UK spelling, which is usually, of course, correct because it's what I'm used to. But in the case of the title of this book, it's wrong.
Yeah.
I wonder in the UK editions, does it have the U?
Yes, it does.
No way.
It's insulting.
Interesting. Wow.
Yes, I'm sorry everyone who has the UK editions, but your copy of Small Favor sucks and is bad.
Yeah.
The words are good, like inside, but
just the title. That U is no good.
And also, like, it's probably nicer to read because it's the UK paperback, but shouldn't have a U.
Yeah.
All right, audience, this is your spoiler warning. We are not spoiling anything in the future books, as most of you guys know. We're spoiling everything from Small Favor back. So if you haven't read Small Favor or anything before it, then get out of here. Here we go. Here's your spoiler warning in 3, 2, 1. You've been warned. Okay, so general thoughts and first impressions of Small Favor. What do you guys think?
Well, for first impressions, I'm going to need a time machine. I have to go back about 6 years.
Sure.
But
I guess general thoughts.
I love Small Favor. It's my favorite of the first 10.
Okay, cool.
Well, then I'll elaborate.
Yep, I would probably agree with Jake. It because I every time I think about the Dresden Files, there's always a couple of scenes that pop back, and I never can remember which book they happen. And the scene with Ivy is one that always comes in. That's why I texted you. I was like, which is this the one? Blah blah blah. And so I thought that this this book is just absolutely incredible. There's so much like action, I guess, let's say, but also so much plot that happens and plays out that it just really is like up there for me.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, I would say I'm not quite the exact opposite of you guys, but every time I'm getting ready to reread the series, I'm like, oh, I think I'll like Small Favor more this time. And I never do. Every time I get to like White Knight, I'm like, oh, Small Favor's next. I bet I'm really gonna enjoy it this time. And like I enjoy it, just like I enjoy every Dresden Files book.
Yeah.
But going through this time, I was just kind of like listening to it, and there was good scenes. Like there's scenes that I really like from this book, but as a whole connected piece, this isn't my favorite, you know? So I'm eager to kind of figure out. So this is our ranking so far. At number 9, we have Stormfront. At number 8, we have Grave Peril. At number 7, we have Full Moon. Number 6 is Summer Night. 5 is Blood Rites. 4 is Death Masks. 3 is White Knight. 2 is Deadbeat. And 1 is Proven Guilty. And so far, I've been really happy with this ranking, and I'm worried
that it's gonna get ruined.
Because of Small Favor. So I'm just gonna say, where I would put it on the list, and then you guys can figure out where you think it should go.
Okay.
We're 2v1. We got him, Gabe.
That's right. We got him, bro. We got him.
Democracy.
I understand that I'm outvoted here. That's why I'm
so
doing
excited to see where Jake puts this, because I'm just praying that it's in the same spot as me.
Well, yeah, I said it's my favorite first 10.
Yeah.
One.
Number 1.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, okay, so I would put it either between Blood Rites and Summer Night, or between Death Masks and Blood Rites. Somewhere.
So both of those are frankly unacceptable. Putting it below Blood Rites is more unacceptable though. Putting it before Death Mask, it's like it's the 2 Nicodemus stories. It's like, okay, so Death Mask has Shiro, which is a point in its favor.
Yeah.
But Summer Night has Eldest Gruff. Summer Night has Mab. Summer Night has Guard coming in on a Huey helicopter, blazing Ride of the Valkyries.
The Archive. Come on.
Summer Night or Small Favor has some of the best protagonist-antagonist conversations for any series that you'll find between Harry and Nicodemus. Summer Night has the falling action, which legitimately could be like up there with, maybe even one of the best falling actions in the series. You got Charity telling Harry that family stays. You got Harry like talking his conversation with Mab and Uriel. You got Eldest Gruff, who's just a delight. You got it's got so much good stuff. And you got Harry being like, I was told I would know who to trade the swords for. And you got one of the best escalation plot twists and one of the best reveal plot twists in the series. You got the escalation of their coming for Ivy.
You're getting schooled right now, dude. You're getting schooled.
One of the best reveal plot twists of Michael being like, Harry doing this whole dramatic thing, and then Michael being like, Harry, where's your blasting rod?
Yeah.
So good. Now, if you want to put it below Proven Guilty, I disagree, but fine. Below Deadbeat, I disagree, but fine. Below White Knight, questionable, but fine. I will not accept below Blood Rites. Death Mask, I think, is questionable.
Oh.
How do I mute someone?
Dude, I thought you were serious for a second. Your face was perfect, dude. I was like, wait, what? Me? Was it me?
No,
I know.
All right.
Yeah, man. So we know where Jake lies. Number 1. And
oh man.
And I think there's only one personal reason why I would challenge that. And it doesn't have to do with the books per se. But Proven Guilty, the whole Molly arc to me is just like very much close to my heart.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's
very
fantastic.
much, very much close. And it's been like one of those ones that I read, and it's like it just always means a lot to me watching this whole thing play out. So I would put it as number 2, right below Proven Guilty. That would be my thing, because I think
Okay.
that it trumps the rest and just everything. Jake just fucking said it all,
I know,
dude.
I know.
He just spilled
Didn't
it
even
all out.
reread this book for the record. Also did not go through a summary.
This guy knows
so,
his Dresden Files, dude.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, no, but we have to come to, I guess 2v1, huh? So you're kind
Yeah.
of fucked, huh?
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
fucked.
I'll take 2 because I think I might be like 3/4 of a vote because I'm a guest. Who knows?
No, man, it's want to be
I get a
3,
full
so
vote. Yay for democracy! All right.
yeah. But I mean, if you're willing to just give me that one thing with proven guilty, then 2 is a great spot for it.
All
yeah,
right.
I love Proven Guilty. I mean,
Okay.
Proven Guilty's got some amazing stuff as well.
Yeah.
I mean, the trial.
Yes, that's the thing that just always gets me so much, dude.
I actually
The whole
think
entire-
I think Charity like telling Harry family stays is probably my
Yeah.
favorite moment of the first 11 books.
Yep.
That entire I love a good
I
falling
cried.
action.
Yeah, I cried too,
I
man.
cried.
I really do.
Yeah.
Charity also is actually like Loki, I think one of the best Dresden characters in terms of how it shows how Jim can make you change how you view a character
Yes.
without
Yeah.
actually changing who
Absolutely,
they are.
dude. Absolutely.
Oh, dude. Yeah,
Like,
it reminds
like,
me.
yeah.
It reminds me of Steris from Mistborn Era
Yes,
2.
yes,
How,
yes. I was just gonna say that.
She does not change, but your opinion
Of her changes
does.
big time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll take Jim Butcher at that skill over anyone on the face of the planet. He's obviously like, at some point there's a book coming up that does that as well. But Charity, I think, is one of the best, because in the early, like in Grave Peril, everyone's like, oh, Charity's annoying. Like, leave her. And Charity's the same person in Small Favor, but it's like she's best.
Your opinion changes, man.
I will caveat. I would say that her opinion of Harry kind of grows and changes.
Yes.
She's having the same thing happen to her with Harry, as we are having with her.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, Charity is
also full points for Proven Guilty for Charity's opinion of Harry saying, and that is one of the reasons why I'll accept it as the number 1 spot.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Awesome.
All right, so let's talk about Jim Butcher, and we'll talk about the narrator a little bit real quick. So one thing that we kind of try to touch on this whenever we see something in a book where it's like, oh, Jim Butcher is like really growing in this way. And I think one thing that he did that he's gotten better at, and he's never been bad at it, but one thing that he's gotten better at is kind of the whole like, as you know, Bob kind of writing trope, where sometimes an author has to put like a little bit of an info dump in.
Yeah.
And it can often seem out of place. Like, why are these two characters discussing this? Like, both of these characters already know this information. But Jim Butcher always finds creative ways to info dump a little bit. Like Lucio liking computers and reading about them and stuff. And then and because of that, she was able to explain to others and the reader what the archive is.
Yeah.
And she was able to say like, it's it's like this software that's kind of a database of all these different things. And I feel like that was a really creative way to remind the audience who the archive is, and what the archive does. Because I think the last time we saw her might have been, was it Grave Peril, when she was in Intermediary?
Death Masks, the duel is Death Masks.
Yeah, okay. And so if you're going through the series, like, it's easy to forget who some of these people are. And I feel like that was a really good way for her to kind of convey that information to somebody who doesn't know, or who needs to be reminded or whatever. And it felt a lot more clean than just like a quick info dump, like Harry in his first person perspective, just being like, as you know, reader, the archive is this person who does that. And Harry has been known to do that. He's been known to kind of recap things for the reader. And I've never really minded it personally, but I know that it is kind of a sticking point for some people. And so I like that he's finding these more creative ways to do that.
Yeah.
His tip of have an idiot who doesn't know what's going on. It's like
Yes.
it works so well. It's
Yeah.
just like, you know,
The idiot rule.
yeah, because then that person like is gonna ask questions, especially when they're like, it worked especially well in Deadbeat because like Butters would ask a lot of questions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love Harry's conversation with Lucio about Ivy because like Harry is very much we're always in his head and he's always like thinks it's how horrible it is, like how people see Ivy as just like a mantle.
Yeah.
And how unreasonable everyone is. And we've never really heard the opposite perspective. And we hear that for the first time. And it's a good reminder to not take what Harry says as face value. He might be saying things, but he's not necessarily considering like the opposing point of view.
Right.
Yeah.
Super like, well.
Yeah, for sure. He's very like one track minded. He doesn't, yeah, exactly what you said. He doesn't really think about how others perceive him. He knows how he thinks.
Yeah,
they
but it's
perceive him,
because
if
he
that makes
believes
sense.
so much in how he
Yeah.
thinks. Like he knows that this is what's right. Like when he was,
Right.
yeah, Lucio about the, he's like, are you really gonna tell me that I shouldn't be close to this girl? Like, are you really gonna tell me she's a tool? Stuff like that when she's like just crying in a corner.
It's one of the reasons he's so terrifying, right? Because like if he thinks he's morally right, he literally will not stop.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So you have to think like, you know, if you're the White Council, they're like, but like, what if he's wrong?
Yeah.
Like, and he then won't stop, and that could be a problem.
And that's why I feel like nobody in the series besides maybe a couple characters like really understands Harry. And I feel like if people could figure out how to communicate with him, like certain characters have, like Lucio did, like Murphy's done, you know, I feel like I feel like he's not open to other ideas, but he gets like so tunnel visioned. And if somebody could just like sit down with him and be like, here's the other perspective,
as long as that person isn't an authority figure, or he'll just lip off at them.
When I feel like that he's just got this extreme sense of his morality. Like he's got his ideals and what's moral and what's right and what's not. Of course, everybody has their own. And so it's
and it's like it goes both ways, right? Like other people don't fully understand Harry, but like Harry also doesn't fully understand other people. This is one thing I really love for the short stories. Which for those who've read, like there's some other point of views, and it's really interesting to see like the type of stuff Harry doesn't realize, which is why one of my favorite Jim interview questions, that I'm definitely not saying this because it was my question, is he was asked like which perspective would like change, or like which short story perspective would like change even more, and it was the Merlin. My question, by the way, sponsored by me. And I think it's like a great, because you know Harry doesn't, the Merlin I think doesn't really understand Harry, like what makes Harry tick. But Harry doesn't understand what makes the Merlin tick at all.
Yeah.
Like especially because the Merlin's like, you know, an authority figure. So he's going to be like,
he's like, nah, screw you.
Yeah. That's interesting though. I've always thought that was an interesting answer, because like what would we see from the Merlin's perspective that would change our opinion of Harry that drastically? Like that's wild to me.
And just like the world in general, I think. And also, I think some people have taken that answer to be like, oh, Harry's wrong and the Merlin is right. Like the Merlin is also going to be a really biased perspective that doesn't, like the Merlin has a lot of like data information, but not as much like in the trenches information. And Harry's like the opposite.
Right.
Harry's also weird because there's a lot of fantasy characters who are like, one of the reasons they're kind of scary is they're like utilitarians to the end. Like the ends justify the means. Harry's almost weird in that he almost goes so far the other way that it becomes terrifying. He's almost just like, you know, it gets like there's the ridiculous counterexamples. If you're just going to be like, no, like you can never do anything wrong. It's like, would you steal a bike to save the world? And like Harry's almost at that end where he's like, if you had Harry in a situation like, hey, Harry, you have to kill this person in order to like save the city, he's not killing the person.
He's like, no.
Yep, exactly. Because it's not right to his morals, man. It's not what he believes is correct.
I don't know how we got down this rabbit trail, but I just want to make a couple quick points about the narrator real quick before we move on.
It's all good.
No, that's fine. We do it all the time.
I'm having fun.
No, it's great. Okay, so I don't know if you noticed this, Gabe, but why does Kincaid have a British accent
So
in this
I
one?
did notice it. It was one of those things where I didn't notice it heavily, but it did
Yeah,
like cross my mind. And it's just got to be because there's times like in the before books where like John was John Marconi, right? Like that's
right.
what they
Yeah,
said. And then
yeah.
and
And
then
then they changed
Butcher's
it.
like, no, it's Marcone. And so I just feel like it's probably one of those scenarios
Yeah,
where like it was
Yeah.
something that they did still sounded good, but like he was like,
yeah.
we should probably put this back in line.
I think
Right.
Jim said like if it's pre-summer night, it's his fault. If it's
Yeah.
post-summer night, it's
It's
Marster's
yeah,
fault.
Marster's fault.
yeah,
That's
Was it the
fair.
reverse?
yeah.
No, it was that, I think.
No,
Yeah.
that makes sense. That makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, because normally he has like this gruff, like
Yeah.
American,
Wonder if we
like,
can just like invent a headcanon.
I
He's
know.
Yeah.
self-conscious about his accent. He was hitting on Murphy, and
Exactly. He was
now he's
trying
just now
trying
yeah
this way and he realized it
Right.
wasn't gonna work.
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then there was another voice that was way off, and that was Chandler. And he kind of has
Oh,
like this,
so different from
like this,
yes.
like rough and dirty, like British accent, almost like a guttural
He
British
better be
accent.
British.
He is, but normally he has like a very proper,
Clear,
like
like very
Oxford
yes.
He
accent.
should sound like the most proper man who's
Yeah,
ever lived.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
He
Yeah.
should
When
sound like, Victorian royalty.
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. That's how he normally sounds. And in this one, he was like, "Oi, governor!" Like, what
Oh
the
no.
fuck? So the last thing I have about the audiobook itself is the music at the end sucked.
I never even
I was so disappointed because that's something I've loved about the
yeah.
audiobooks is like at the end, like just those last like few sentences, there's this music that comes in and kind of sends you off to the end of the book. And so far, they've all been really, really fantastic. And this one, like the music didn't even start until they had finished talking and like until the last word was spoken. And it was just like, doop, 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 doop. And I was like, what the fuck is this? I don't like this at all.
So random
So,
funny thing.
yeah.
I was reading through these notes, and of course I don't know there's music at the end. So when I see the music at the end sucked, I'm like,
What
wait,
is
he
it
doesn't
talking
mean Ride of the Valkyries, right? Like that's
No,
nearest to the end.
yeah.
Because on reread, like when I'm rereading, I know that's
Oh,
coming.
yeah.
Like I blare if I'm not in a public place, I play Ride of the Valkyries max volume as I'm reading the fight at Demon Reach
Nice.
when Guard shows up in
Oh,
like the Huey.
that's great. That's great.
Because some things just have to be. It adds to the experience. Maybe that's the
Yeah.
real trick to make you enjoy a small favor. Get Ride of the Valkyries ready
There you
Oh,
go.
yeah, for sure.
for the Demon Reach fight.
All right, let's talk about the magic in this book a little
Oh,
bit.
yes.
Harry, I like this scene where Harry takes the leaf tracker and puts it on a rubber
Yes.
band,
Yes.
and Mister chases it across the little Chicago table. I was like,
You
I'm
can
always really impressed by the ways that Butcher uses his magic
Yeah.
system. And I'm like, that's just genius. Like
Yep.
that's just such a smart way to use that particular piece of the magic system.
And I love the way that paints such a picture. Like you can just imagine the summer court just running all over and sending their minions there and this and there and
They
Gruff's
got like
now
a
he's over here.
blackboard.
where
Like,
is
what's going
he?
on?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. They're trying to like plan stuff
Is
out.
this
It
some
just-
kind of new spell? Like,
Yeah.
Right.
has he employed the services of like some kind of demon?
Yeah, it just is awesome,
the
man. I
Red
love the
Cat
picture
Mister.
that it paints.
Yeah.
It's also for new magic. This book, I used to randomly do like a Dresden quiz with people from
Nice.
and I had got a question of when was this book because it has like the electric socket thing.
Oh, yes.
yeah.
That's only used in this book.
Yeah.
So for those of you who are on small favor,
doesn't
who are
what's
like,
her name? Harry's.
Yeah, he learns it from Elaine.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he uses it in this and like, doesn't kill Tessa. So he's like, all right, I'll do Fuego next time.
Yeah.
Yep, there you go.
And it just didn't make the cut. So
Yeah.
hopefully no one is watching this and being like, my favorite part of the Dresden Files is that spell in particular. Because
Yeah.
I have some bad news for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did think that was a cool like a way to employ that magic. He
And
even
to like charge it and
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, it's great.
even Harry was like, "Oh, I never thought about plugging something into a socket."
Yeah.
to charge it." That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Harry conjures a silver hand to swat
Oh,
Thorn
yes.
Namshiel. We learn more about this later in the
Yeah,
book.
it's a big
It's
deal
soul
later in the
fire.
series.
It'll
Yeah.
probably never come up again.
Yeah. It's a one and done.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically it's taking a piece of your soul to be magical rebar in your magic.
Yeah.
And making it stronger and more real, less easy for the other guy to negate.
And I think a strong point to point out too is that Harry chooses how much to invest, and so this potential magic could kill him if he invested too much.
Yes.
Which, by the way, means he now has 2 ways to kill himself with magic.
I'm just yep.
Which also probably means if he was going to die, he could, combine them and it'd
go do
really
something
blow stuff
crazy.
up.
Yeah. So that was just something that like poked out because I was like that, there's always 2 sides to a coin, right? And I was like, this magic is incredibly, its creation, powerful. But I was like, how easy would it be for him to be in a situation where like stakes are dire and he needed to invest this much? And what if it's too much, That's just where my mind goes.
Also, because of course it's Harry, it's like you've been given the literal powers of creation.
Yeah,
what will you do with it? He will make. He's like, I'm
gonna use the shit out of it, dude.
But he's also like, what shall you do with this power that can accomplish that? Like, is so versatile. And he's like, I shall make my fire spells slightly harder to block.
Yeah.
Like, we want to put a little more thought into that, Harry.
Yeah.
I also thought it was interesting how like he's worried about his soul because he used like a piece of your
piece
of your
tears
soul
off
every
a
time
piece and uses it for the magic.
And I think I always like these moments where Bob is like, shut up, you don't know what that means.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where he's just like, you don't actually know what a soul is. Have you ever seen it? Have you ever used it? No, like you don't know. Bob's like, humans get really worked up around this word. He's like, it's just a piece of you that like makes you you.
Yeah.
And he's like, it grows back. He's like, go on a date or
that's right. And the advice he gives is like, go and like do something that makes you happy. Like that's how you rebuild your soul. Like go and do something.
And Harry's
fun.
like, have you noticed that I can't do the little light handkerchief thing anymore?
Right. Yeah.
But also I think like, because that is absolutely like Bob doing that, but it's also, of course, Bob doesn't get why people care about their soul.
That's true. Yeah. He's
like, like he gets it intellectually.
Yes.
Right. Of course, he doesn't get like the emotion because Bob doesn't get morality.
He's a spirit of intellect, strictly intellect.
Yeah, this is like people are sometimes like, wow, Bob said that, like that's really bad. And it's like the thing you have to understand about Bob.
That's right.
Is if Harry was like, hey Bob, I think I want to go kill some children. Can you give me some advice on how to do that? He wouldn't even be like,
oh yeah, he'd be like, absolutely here.
He'd be like, oh yeah, absolutely. Here's a spell that could do that. Like that wouldn't set off any red flags. He'd just be like, he might be like, that seems to not match with your behavior.
Yeah.
Right.
But he'd just be like, oh, I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah.
And that's why he's been such a useful tool in the past, man.
Yeah. And a scary one.
Yes. Very
even
scary.
Lucio was talking about him in this book. She's
I remember that.
Kemmler used to have this like assistant that was like a spirit of intellect.
And Harry's like, oh shit, she's talking
Harry
about
was like,
Bob.
the gif of like Homer just like shrinking into the bushes. Harry was just like,
yeah.
I've never heard of such a thing.
Like, oh,
I don't know what you're talking about.
He had a spirit of intellect. That's terrifying.
That's
horrible.
Crazy.
How could someone use something like that? I think Harry's fundamental belief in magic as a force of good that should be used as a force of good, like might actually be one of the most important aspects of his character.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And I think it's why a lot of time when people read books 1 or 2, like he seems kind of morally loose. He's like doing it for the money. But I think he's one of the reasons he's extremely morally strict. Like he actually like he doesn't break his moral laws at all. Definitely. They're just like his version, like the laws he's really strict about don't quite match up with what's like typical.
Right.
Because a lot of his morality comes from the fundamental belief that magic should be like used to help others.
Yeah.
And that it's good, which is
like
why he can hold up the Pentagon and it works his face.
Right. Like he has no problem breaking into somebody's house or like the Radio Shack and like Deadbeat or anything.
Oh yeah.
As long as it's for the greater good. So he is like morally gray in some ways, I guess. But
at the same time, like he really, yeah, exactly. He really isn't because
it's not
his morals.
Like it's like he's not willing to do something he sees as wrong to accomplish an end. there are things that most
There-
people would say are wrong.
There's
That he'd
like
just be like,
it's
this
like the
doesn't
lesser
matter.
of two evils. Like he's
Right.
like, this
But
might be bad, but
the
the
thing is,
ultimate.
I don't even think he is going lesser evils. I think when he does stuff like that, he's like, this isn't even bad. Like, I think he's just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
doesn't even see the things he does as like sometimes he does, but when he breaks like
'Cause I was gonna
laws,
say, because there's always times where, like, well, he'll do something like break in. He's like, he'll say something like, the poor guys that have to fix his door or something
Right.
else,
Oh,
yeah,
and
yeah, in
go
that case,
on.
yeah.
And so I feel like he kind of knows, but at the same time, like, it doesn't come close to trumping what has to be done to
Yeah.
fix
Right.
the issue.
Yeah, he's never gonna like I mean he kind of can't use his magic to do bad stuff because he wouldn't believe in it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Actually,
That's,
speaking of, I have
that's
to
the
say, like,
interesting thing too.
yeah, the more I actually like sit on it, I think Dresden actually is like my favorite magic system. I like
Yes.
of
Yeah,
anything.
definitely.
I
Yes.
think the way it's incorporated, and it's like if you ask me, hey, can you tell me everything Harry Dresden can do? I'd be like, no. But if you list a task, I can tell you how hard it would be.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Definitely. That's a great point, man. I could totally see that.
Yeah, I love like when a magic system like Sanderson magic systems are great because you know like
The
exactly what
rules.
everything can do.
Yes,
But
exactly.
like a system like the Dresden Files, like you said, if you list a task, like if you list something that you need done, I could probably come up with like a couple different ways that Harry could probably do it, and they would all probably be valid, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it's cool when your system has enough flexibility to kind of tackle anything that may come up, but it also has enough hard rules where
Yeah.
it's like, okay, this can't happen. It's not like you can just do anything. But
Yeah,
like
like for example, like he can't like break conservation of energy. Whenever
Right.
he
Yeah.
creates energy, he has to
Yep.
draw it from somewhere.
yeah.
But like he can, within the like there are broad rules, there are big rules,
Yeah.
but and they're also kind of different for like every magic user
Yeah,
because
well,
there's so much based on beliefs.
exactly, and that's what I was gonna say. This magic system is so much based on belief and like knowing what you can do and can't do. Like there's like for instance time travel. Like we know that can happen, but like the stages of believing in what you're doing to make that happen is way different than just like thinking about like, oh, I want to go here or
Actually,
whatever
it'd
else.
be interesting to see if like pre-Newton like or in places where they
Yeah,
don't know that if they can actually break physics and whether or
for
not being able to
sure,
break
and
physics is
that's
self-imposed.
exactly. It's kind of a
Um,
Yeah.
conundrum.
Because like
you-
it's also possible because like that's not a restriction of the magic, that's just a restriction of the world. Like physics is a
Belief,
thing.
yeah.
Right.
But
Oh,
it'd be
yeah.
I almost would guess that you still wouldn't be able to because it's like physics
Probably
is physics.
not. Yeah.
But most like
Yeah.
the procedural rules, like how to do stuff, not necessarily like what you can do. Sometimes like physics is gonna physics, but the procedural rules of how to do stuff, that's like completely self-placed. It's like the Play-Doh has to be blue. The guy's like, does it actually have to be? It's like because blue's for
No,
defense.
that's
Right.
And
right.
then he
Because
thinks
I
about it, he's
was
like,
taught blue was
well,
there for defense.
yeah.
Yeah.
He's like,
Yeah.
well, it probably doesn't have to be blue, but I think it has to be blue.
Yeah,
So it has to
exactly.
be.
Exactly.
All right, we gotta move on from magic. But last thing I want to say is we get our first glimpse at the island.
Oh, yeah.
It's probably never gonna come up again.
It probably never come up again. And we get Dresden feeling like he's been there before.
Yeah.
And Lucio tells him that this is his foresight coming in.
Yes.
And something all these wizards experience at some point
As
where
they age.
yeah, they come in contact with something that's going to be important for them later on.
I love the
So
explanation
that's like,
for why we didn't already know this. It's
yeah,
just like wizards would be so annoying. Like,
yes,
if you
I
teach
love
them about
that.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Because it makes so
they-
much sense.
yeah, they would think that like everything is like foresight, and I
like,
just
yeah.
I love how like Jim Butcher just writes foreshadowing on a bat and just like hits you with it.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh yeah, sometimes wizards find places that are going to be important to them later on. It's like, okay. I wonder-
No, it never comes up again. I don't know.
never
what you're talking
comes
about.
up again.
Yeah, this is actually no more of this island. Can't even say the name.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
I also sometimes for this I wonder like what part of like Jim's skill set is. Is he really good at like planning things ahead of time, or is he just really good at like taking what past him did and like having it make sense later?
I think a
it's
little
probably
bit of
both.
both.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that because I think we all know the story of like how how he like started the Dresden Files. He like planned out the whole thing and gave it to his teacher in college.
Yeah. She's like,
And
this won't work.
yeah. And yeah, and so I think that for the most part he had a pretty solid plan. But I think there's definitely some stuff that's changed on the fly, because he's come out before and said like, oh yeah, there's like major things that have like shifted around.
Like,
Yeah.
for example, I think he knew what's going on with Demon Reach, obviously, when he wrote Small Favor. But I don't think he actually secretly had a genius character for Charity when he wrote Grave Peril.
Right.
I think he then took what he had for Charity and was like, oh, I can actually make this like really
Yeah.
By the way, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but I went and bought a donut for this
Nice,
podcast.
dude.
Wait, where are the sprinkles?
Yeah, where are your sprinkles? It's gotta be jelly. Is it jelly?
No, he didn't have jelly in his,
Oh.
but yeah, they didn't have any with sprinkles. And so I was
But you got the white frosting.
That's
so-
true.
I have
Yep.
white frosting.
Yep, that's true. God, I wish I had a donut right now, dude.
It's actually
I
so
love
good.
how
I would eat the fuck out of a donut right now, bro.
I would too.
Yep.
And you know what? If I mysteriously had a donut and my half vampire brother Thomas asked me where I got the donut, I wouldn't explain it.
Yep. You're stuck with what you think, bro. You're
Yeah.
stuck with what you think.
Yeah, I was like, I gotta get one. I was at the
That's
store
awesome,
earlier. It's like,
dude.
I gotta get a donut. Okay, so favorite characters of the book. Who are your standouts for this installment?
Ivy.
Ivy.
Yep. Ivy's probably
almost
my
everybody.
standout. We don't see a ton of her beforehand. We do in the future. Here and there's times where she'll pop up, but I think the connection that Harry and Ivy have is like unlike anything else that she's ever had in her life.
Mhm.
And so it really, this whole entire thing about Ivy getting taken and this and that, and Harry like saying like she can't be taken, like I'm gonna fix this, is like huge. So I love Ivy. Plus, dude, she's a fucking powerhouse, bro.
Yeah,
She's
dude.
a
kicks ass.
powerhouse, man. Like even Harry says it, it's like unlike anything I could ever do or ever see. She's so
Yeah.
powerful, and so yeah, I got much respect for Ivy.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think if you have like a basic magic talent, and then on top of that you have access to, oh, my dog wants the donut. And then you have access to everything that's ever been
Dude,
written
it's
about
like
magic.
unparalleled
Oh,
magical
dude.
talent.
Yeah.
Unparalleled. It's
You'd
nuts.
you'd be a
Control that.
powerhouse.
It takes people to school.
Yeah.
That's like
yeah.
Ivy doing magic is the definition of there are levels to this.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
she's the equivalent
And
of
she's
like
the fucking
Michael Jordan
ultimate boss,
showing up
dude.
in like a high school ball game, and Harry's
Yeah.
like a pretty good high school ball player, and Ivy's like prime Michael Jordan, and just like, well, I guess no,
Yeah.
because Ivy's the equivalent of someone who's short. So I don't know.
But
Yeah.
no,
One of the-
I get what you're saying though. It makes sense. That totally
Yeah.
and
makes
just
sense.
like yeah, there are levels
slamming
to
on
this,
him,
folks.
dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then really like clever trap. That was also like
Yeah.
drawing from the two plots and connected
Yeah.
them. It's like, oh, it makes sense. Yeah, Harry would go get Ivy.
Right.
And like already Harry has to rescue Marcone to do a favor for Mab from
Yeah.
Nicodemus is like pretty damn good plot. But like Ivy being the real target. I love like escalation plot twists because you don't really have to set them up that much. They just be like they're really cool.
Yeah.
And
They
this is
just
one of
get
my
cooler
favorite
and cooler
ones.
and cooler.
Yeah.
Like I probably when I first read like Kincaid, they're coming for Ivy, I probably verbally went, oh shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the conversation with Nicodemus before that,
Ooh.
where like Nicodemus is just stalling so he can like actually talk to Harry, so good. Can I pick Nicodemus? There's too many standout characters in
You
this
can
book.
pick Nicodemus, dude. He's my
Can I pick,
second,
like,
man.
6
He's
people?
my
Can I
second.
pick, like Harry, because
Nicodemus
always
was
Harry.
a fucking solid character.
Mab, because always Mab.
Yeah.
Michael, because Michael. Charity.
Yeah.
Nicodemus.
Yeah.
Ivy. Thomas is pretty great. Like when Harry
That's the
tells
problem
him like
with
the
these
coin.
books, man.
Yeah.
It's all so good.
Can we pick the not standout? Which characters didn't stand out? It's really well.
That's a good question, actually.
I'm actually trying to go down here. It's like, okay, no, not that one, not that one.
But I
not-
mean, I would say probably Murphy, I guess.
I'll go one of the Gruffs.
Okay.
Not eldest Gruff, but
Russ,
like
I gotcha.
the second eldest.
So you're not talking about
Gruff.
main characters, just anybody that popped up.
Yeah, no, anyone.
Oh,
like,
okay,
straight
okay,
up,
okay.
who's like not really well done.
Got you.
But I
got
like
you,
the
got you.
Gruffs. They're just anyway.
Yeah.
I'd like to pick 3/4 of the cast as my answer for this pick.
Okay. Yeah, I think for me it's either Nicodemus or just Harry. And usually I have like a better answer than that. But I feel like everyone was kind of on pretty even playing field here. Murphy, did we even see much of Murphy
Not a
besides like
ton. I mean, what we did see of Murphy was like good. Like she was like supporting Harry and like being there and stuff.
She did threaten to shoot Tiny when
Yes.
Yeah.
Tiny was in
Oh,
Max,
Yes,
Dude.
and
and
that was
Harry was at an
badass
impasse
scene,
because like
dude.
Harry can't do anything.
Bro, she pulled
And
this whole
Murphy's
legal
just
thing
like,
out of her ass.
yeah, Murphy's just like, I am not a part of the Accords.
yeah.
And
That-
also it was like I really like you can see the advantages Harry has from like cluing Murphy in,
Yeah.
because if he just told Murphy what was on a need to know basis, she would not be able to figure out that
Yeah.
this would be an answer that Summer would accept. But like she
Yes.
knows now that Summer will accept, like, I've sworn an oath, and he's protected by this.
Yeah.
So good job, Harry, actually telling people stuff. It got
Yeah.
paid dividends.
Yeah.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, that was a fantastic loophole. I always really, really love that scene. And I think it works really well too, because right before that happens, they're kind of going back and forth like, you don't need to be involved in this. No, you don't need to be
Yeah.
involved in this. And kind of like this is a Chicago police matter. It's like, no, this is a supernatural matter.
Yeah.
And then once the gruff comes in, I feel like Murphy kind of realizes like, okay, there are some supernatural baddies here and I'm a little bit out of my weight class. And then at the same time, Harry realized, oh, Murphy is really smart. Like I should
Yeah.
probably bring her in on this.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like this really good kind of catalyst to get them to work together and see each other's point of views for this book.
So I forgot Fix is in this book. Fix is actually, there's a pretty
He
good
is,
Fix scene
yeah.
where like he shows up with
Yeah.
like the gun on Harry.
Shotgun in
and
Harry's
then
face. Yeah.
and then when he puts it down, Harry, like Thomas points the gun and Fix is like, no, Harry, tell him to put it down. And Harry like takes out his gun and it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
because
He's
they're
like, the next time you pull a gun on me, you better pull the trigger.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, if you're gonna point a gun at me,
And
like,
and I just have to say, like, I get why Fix did what he did. Like, because for somebody that's he's the Summer Knight at this point, right?
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
someone
so-
as of the end of Summer
Yeah,
Night.
exactly. And so somebody that is associating with Winter, like, I respected his angle, like, big time. But at the same time, I was like, come on, dude. Like,
Yeah.
you know that this is not how this is gonna play out.
And I think that's the point of view we're missing. Is I feel
Yeah.
like as much as people like trust Harry, they all think that he could go bad in a second.
Yes. Yeah. Well,
Well,
and,
I don't think they'd be like he'd go bad. He'd think he was doing the right thing.
and then
Yeah.
it would be bad.
And
Yeah.
he'd be hard to stop. Like
Yeah.
the
Right.
only if he thought he's doing the right thing, like the only way you're stopping him is killing him.
Right.
Right. Like Fix actually, like, he needed Mike Ehrmantraut to be like, no half measures, Fix.
Yeah.
Because if they're like half measures against Harry are just, it's not a good idea.
Yeah.
Right. Let's talk about Michael for a second.
Ooh. Yeah.
He is a descendant of Charlemagne. That was one of
He is.
his ancestors. Yeah, that's what it said at the end. He had Molly doing her homework because he had realized that Shiro was descended from a king, Sonya was descended from a king.
Yep.
And so he was having Molly do research into her family tree and realized that way back in her family tree is Charlemagne.
Yep.
And so it makes you wonder, like, who else do we know who has an ancestor who's a king? Thomas
Anybody
does.
with a sword.
Thomas does.
Yeah.
His father's a king, and I don't know if that qualifies for like, being like a sword bearer.
Yeah.
But also probably like if you generate ancestor close enough, like a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I wonder if Murphy has a king in her ancestry. And that was another thing. She pulled out the sword and it started glowing. And Harry's like, I feel like that's a job offer. And she turned it down, but it's like, okay, obviously she's able to bear a sword.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
that's...
well, the swords are all about intent. They're all about faith and intent, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyways, I just thought that was interesting that that Michael had that lineage as well.
Well then, and let's not just stop there. Michael, of course, towards the ending, getting shot up is like one of my, just the way that Harry describes this shooting and Michael
Yeah,
getting hit is just heartbreaking, dude.
dude,
Like
that
it's so
was
sad.
And then
was
when Harry
brutal.
brings out Pyro Fuego,
Yeah,
Dude.
that is
that's
the
it. That's
official
yes,
that is the
yes.
official shit just got real
Yeah,
spell.
exactly. That's like, I'm
um,
so angry. You don't
uh
even have any idea what you provoked.
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, he only
And
brings out Pyro Fuego a couple times. Like I think
yeah.
last time is Grave Peril. Burn, you
Yep.
greasy bastards, burn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, just for those who haven't, please read The Warrior after Small Favor. You don't have to read
Yes.
all the short stories, you should, but you don't have to. But read The Warrior. It's a
Yep.
bad idea not to. You're
Is
making a mistake.
that part of it, the part of the collection?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
Okay,
that's
all right.
Michael's.
Then
that's
that's
in
good.
the
I've
first one.
I've read it then.
Yeah.
It's the post Small Favor one.
Okay. Yeah.
Where like Michael is involved. And it's excellent.
Nice.
Yeah, we'll be I've been trying to figure out when we started doing these episodes, I was like, should we read each book and read the short story that like goes with it
Yeah.
sometimes? And I think what we figured out was like read all the way up until changes and
Side
then,
jobs after changes,
and then read the
briefcases
side
after
jobs.
skin
Yeah.
game. Yeah.
Right, yeah. So yeah, we'll definitely get to him eventually. But the Warrior does, go with Small Favor. It's a really, really good short story.
It's one of the best ones for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
They're overall like I think they're a bit hit and miss. That one's a hit. That one's it's really good.
Yeah, it's a solid one.
And you get more Michael greatness. I think my favorite Michael scene in this is I mentioned it earlier, where like Harry like holds Michael's sword up, and and Michael's
to
just
his
like,
neck. Yeah.
where's your blasting
Yeah,
rod?
definitely.
So I
Oh,
said
yeah,
this
we're gonna
before.
talk about that for sure.
This was the last time I was like reading a Jim Butcher book, and I was like, I think there's a plot hole here. Why is he like this is not very good? It's really weird that Harry's not using his blasting rod. Like,
Right.
his blasting rod is more damaging than his staff. Why is Jim having him use like these less effective spells?
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, Jim, I will not trust you.
Yeah.
Ever. I trust you now. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the better kind of twists in the series. It really reminded me of the like Sheila twist from Deadbeat, where like you think one thing the whole time, or in this case, like it's just not there. And then there's kind of this twist, and there's a really good reason for it. Mab having kind of like messed with his mind so that he wouldn't draw fire from Summer.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just one of those things where once Michael says that, like I think the first time through, I didn't even realize that he wasn't using his blasting rod. And then I was like, oh yeah, where is his blasting rod?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, somebody messed with his head. And the first place your head goes to is Molly. It's like, why would she do that? And then you're like trying to think of the other people that could have done it. It's like Lucio, or like, kind of going down the list.
Queen Mab.
Queen Mab, dude.
Also, speaking of things Jim's improved at, which like he's improved pretty comprehensively, but I think almost every book, Deadbeat and after, has a better plot twist than like any of the plot twists before Deadbeat. Proven Guilty has like the phages went after Molly.
Yeah.
I swear White Knight has something. I just don't remember what it is. And then Small Favor is
White Knight's twist is the unassuming woman in the group.
Oh yeah,
being the guy, being the White Court vampire.
That's probably not better than Thomas being Harry's brother. So what I said might have been a lie. But it's something like that's something I think he's really improved. And they're not like it's not like all the entire book for any of these is like focused around this plot twist. It's not like an M. Night Shyamalan movie.
Right.
It's just they all have reveals that are set up so well. Yeah. And like all the best reveals you don't see coming at all. And then you read it and you're like, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah, like I think my favorite, the one that I would consider the best is the Sheila one from Deadbeat, because that is just like such a what the fuck moment where Butters goes into that room And he's like, Harry, who are you talking to? Like, it's dark in here. And Harry's like, what are you talking about? And as the reader, you're like, what are they talking about?
And then
Yeah.
Lash
And
is just like,
oh, dude,
Yeah,
goddamn.
she's like, you
so
got me.
good.
I'm fucked.
So good. So
I think
good.
my favorite one's in Skin Game, but I can't say what it is,
Yeah.
obviously, because
No.
it's so ridiculous and makes more and more sense the more you think about it.
Let's talk about Thomas real quick. I loved Harry near the end there. He kept getting pissed at like how good Thomas is at everything, and
He
like
doesn't even practice.
yeah, he was like, he doesn't even work out. And then another time he was like, he doesn't even practice. And then the last one is like, he doesn't even moisturize. And I'm like, what the fuck? So good.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Does this book have Thomas being like, it's a sextant, and Harry being like, any tent you're in is a sextant? No,
I
I
don't
think
think
that's
it's this one.
Yeah, I don't think
I think
so.
it's
Not this
No,
one
it doesn't.
anyways.
I
Which one is that, dude?
know.
Oh my
I'm
god,
trying
it's
to
gonna
think.
bother me.
Any tent you're in is a sextant.
It would probably be when we see
It's
the
it's
water
what
beetle for
it's
the
when
first
they're
time.
yeah, it's when they're on the
Yeah.
boat.
So probably
Exactly.
White Knight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Side note, fucking boats. Okay. I love that there's a reoccurring fucking boats in the Dresden File. And comes up a few times. And every
Yeah.
time now I chuckle.
Nice.
Almost every time someone is like in Discord reacting to Dresden, I swear they all post in White Knight fucking boats without fail.
That's
Nice.
awesome.
Last one I have for Thomas is, if Harry had died, Mab would have recruited Thomas because he would have been well suited for a revenge killing
Yeah,
spree.
and that comes in a couple times. I'm not sure if it's future books. It may be.
Yeah.
That'd be sick.
Yeah.
But also, like, yeah, of course, like Mab, can you just like chill? Mab's
Right.
always just like every plan
no
she
way.
has.
She's not gonna chill, dude.
Like, she doesn't rely on
She's like
things
smoking
going her
crack
way
all the time.
Yeah.
Every time it's like, if things go my way, I win. If things don't go my way, I also win.
Yeah, I win. Exactly, dude.
It's all Mab. Always has been.
Yeah.
I think actually my favorite Thomas scene is like when the denarian, like the coin, almost tricks him into picking it up.
Oh,
and Harry's just like, if you pick that,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
do
freaks
not
out.
touch that.
He's like,
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
fucking touch that.
And Thomas is like, I'll be fine. And then Harry's like, they'll tell you like that they can like have
Bring
you be with
Justine
Justine
Bring
again. And I was
Justine
like,
back,
on one
yeah.
hand, Harry, I feel like don't tell him that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But
On the
on
same,
the other
what
hand,
what a great deterrent for the mindset that he was in, because he's at now, like, he's in the mindset like, I know that is what I want. That's everything that I
Right.
want. And if
Yeah.
something like this coin gives that to me, it's gonna be bad news.
it's another example of like, because he's like, yeah, I'm pretty good at dealing with temptation. It's another example of their levels to this. That reminds me of someone who's like, yeah, I'm pretty good at spicy food. I'm sure I can have this ridiculous
Yeah,
pepper.
I'll eat this ghost
And that's
pepper, no
Thomas.
problem, no problem.
And it's like, normal hot wings are what he has. And that's like,
Yeah.
that would have him like crying on the floor.
Yeah.
Right.
He's not holding up to that. Harry's a mad lad for resisting. That's the only, that would be the only excuse. I'd be like, if you're gonna put small favor lower, it's that it doesn't have lash. But
Yeah.
Death Mass and Blood Rites also don't have lash. So that can't be a reason why that's above those. But I love lash.
All right.
I do too.
I have one more or two more things about Ivy, and then we can move on
Okay.
to favorite quotes. Kincaid calls her the midget, and I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, that is
That's
funny.
just his nickname for her. He's the midget. She's the midget. She's like, I am not a midget. I am a child in the whatever
In the
percentile.
97th percentile for my age and weight.
Yeah. The last thing I have about Ivy is just this stuff that we kind of learned. We get a good chunk of info there for a little bit, where we learn that Ivy is a unique archive. Her mother died very young and passed the mantle on to Ivy as a baby. When normally on these archives, they would have like more or less like a lifetime of experiences before having to take up the mantle.
Yeah.
But Ivy had it more or less from day one.
Yeah.
And she's at risk of going crazy because of this. Lucio is thus upset with Harry for naming her and befriending her but maybe that's exactly what she needs.
Yeah.
And then we learn that Kincaid was working for Ivy's grandmother at the time, and Ivy's mother confided in him, and so he kind of like has taken up protection of Ivy and probably views her as like a daughter. I would think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. Even Harry was like, "Is Kincaid the father?" And
Yeah.
she's like, "No, Kincaid's not the dad." But yeah, a really interesting bit of info there. All right, let's go on to favorite quotes here.
I've got a favorite moment / quote that I did not write down, but it's at the very beginning of this book when
Okay.
they're out throwing snowballs and they're attacked by the summer court or whatever it is. And there's a scene where like Harry's worried about Molly, and then he looks over and like there's no Molly, and he's like, Molly isn't good maybe at like defenses or attack spells, but he's like, she can do veils like they're going out of style.
Yeah.
And I was like, that whole scene, dude, I just freaking love, because she's like, you know, like something else with veils.
Yeah.
And all that
she
magic.
Can't stop the
Yeah,
snowballs.
and but it was just so cool. She's like super good at magic, but just in her own way.
Speaking of snowballs, you know, Charity being like, and how did you learn?
Oh
and
yeah,
like
it's
baseballs.
like baseballs. Yes. Yeah.
And Harry's also like, I gotta say, I learned shields pretty quick.
Yeah, pain's a great motivator.
Yeah.
And she's like, why aren't you teaching Molly the same way? Like almost kind of thinking that maybe she's getting like a inferior education.
Yeah, second class
and,
or whatever.
And he's like, there's no rush. He's like,
Yeah.
I don't need to be throwing baseballs at her.
Yeah.
Like nobody needs that.
Yep.
Because nothing catastrophic will happen
right
later in the series.
Yeah.
Right.
We have plenty of time.
We have plenty of time.
Yeah, Harry, I don't know if you noticed, there's a book named Changes coming up.
Yeah, I have one here. So it's near the beginning when he's with Rollins and Murphy, and he's just seen like the circle, and he needs to get a hold of Toot Toot. He's like, I need to be alone and I need a donut. And everybody kind of looks at him. Murphy makes like some sort of quip, and he's like, some things a wizard just has to do for himself.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they're both like, what the fuck? Like, they're like, is he gonna fuck this donut?
I like the quick, they're like, why do you assume cops always have donuts? And he has like a really good answer. He's like, donuts are like, make sense for police for the following reasons.
Yeah.
And I swear that was just like an argument Jim Glitcher got in, and he's like,
yeah,
I'm gonna win this argument in small favor.
He's like, I'm gonna prove this right now.
He got an argument with someone, and then he figured out what he should have said 3 hours later, and then he put it in small favor.
He put it in his book. Yeah.
There's just several scenes in this book where Michael brings out the sword of faith, and he these Latin words like in nomine Dei, like sodia quovios, and all this stuff that he says, like to like, I don't know. I've always thought that was super cool.
Yet he's got this one scene like there. He's usually doing like these Latin phrases, and then when they're in the train station, this scene, like, it didn't really like make me tear up or anything, but it was just this moment where I was like, yeah, like that's Michael.
They're powerful, dude. They're powerful.
And like he doesn't say the Latin phrase, but all he says is like, Father, we need your help.
Yes.
And his sword like blazes to life.
Yeah.
It's just like, let's
I know,
go,
dude. I know.
Like,
I love that shit.
So good.
Also, like when the person's like, you know, was praying, and it's like, Harry's like, that's probably as close as you're gonna get. And then Michael's like, actually, like, Harry, don't say that. I love. I mean,
dude, that scene actually did make me tear up. Where like, are you talking about when he goes to the lady who's like hiding in the corner?
Yeah.
And she's like praying, and he comes up and he says, he's like, just so you know, like he does hear you, and he does.
Michael's
care.
like, of course he listens.
Yeah, exactly. He might not answer as fast as you think, but he's there.
Michael just is the best lawful good character. Like not in Dresden.
And you
just
were,
just like full stop. And you know what? There's a lot of time in these books of Michael taking out Amarachius, and it never gets less cool.
Yeah.
If anything, it gets more cool somehow. You'd think it'd be diminishing returns, but no.
Right.
Amarachius will never not be cool.
Right. I like this quote where where it's Thomas and Harry. I think they're in the car or at his apartment or something. And Thomas says, "Where are we headed?" And Harry says, to where they treat me like royalty. And Thomas says, we're going to Burger King.
Yeah, yeah.
And Harry narrates, he's like, I rubbed the heel of my hand against my forehead and spelled out fratricide in a subvocal mutter. And I had to spell out,
yeah, that's good.
and I had to spell out temporary insanity and justifiable homicide too before I calmed down enough to speak.
You know what the
yeah.
most surprising thing about this scene is? That Harry did not actually mean that he was going to Burger King.
I know,
Wait,
right?
Yeah, because he didn't, right?
Yeah, no, he did not mean Burger King, which is pretty shocking.
That is shocking.
Like, that was a pretty good guess.
Yeah, because they were going to Marcone's place.
So actually, Harry, I gotta say, just your homicide would not be justifiable here. That was a totally reasonable guess for Thomas.
Yeah, right. I love when they get to Marcone's place too, the new Velvet Room or whatever. Jim Butcher always used like these really funny like verbs and adjectives to describe the girls there, because they're just these bubbly girls who are like super hot. And he's like, Billy came fibrillating back up to us. And I was like, God, that's a word. Like,
yeah,
holy shit.
That paints a picture.
Yeah.
Also, for the Michael scene, I just want to mention we have maybe my favorite Princess Bride reference in the series. There's a couple really good ones. But, you know, when Michael's like, how long is this going to be? And Harry's like, you rush a miracle, Sonny, you get lousy miracles. Which, you know, isn't quite the quote, but Harry doesn't need to get it exactly right. He's not a miracle man.
I've never seen Princess Bride.
Okay, you know what? You
I
can go
have.
read
It's
the
just
book
been a while.
or watch the movie.
Yeah, it is a really good movie.
It's a good book too. You know why?
Yes, I haven't read the book, but it's a great
dialogue.
movie.
It's the same.
Jake, you like that quote. You
this summary of the situation. They got Ivy, and Harry. You know, team meeting. Let's sum things up.
Yeah.
Okay, people. Here's the situation. We are bent over, greased up, and Nicodemus and his crew is about to drive one of those Japanese bullet trains right up our collective ass.
Oh, man, dude.
Oh, dude. It paints such a picture.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Oh, yikes.
Like, that's what Harry would say, too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
He really, he got some attention there, because I think a lot of the people did not grasp how much trouble they were in. They were like, oh, someone captured a little girl. He's like, no. Nuclear launch codes, people.
Yeah.
This is the person who said
like could be
that
the
end
of the
apocalypse
world,
is a state of mind.
Yeah.
Like, go get in your bunkers. Like, this isn't someone has been kidnapped. This is like the end is fucking nigh.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
I loved I wondered if the angelic tongue had swear words in it, or if they just said nice words backwards or something. Doog, two's doog.
Yeah. And then you get Harry being like, I'll trade the swords for Nicodemus, which, by the way, is big brain time foreshadowing. Like, the entire time when it's like Shiro's like, you'll know who to give the swords to, you're like, who's he gonna give it? It's Nick a freaking Demus.
Yep.
Yeah.
And like Michael, of course, is like, what?
Yeah. No, he's just shook, man. He's like,
and then you get Michael being like, we could get all the coins, and Harry's like, first of all, the world's gonna end.
Yeah.
Second of all, like, no, there's still gonna be bad things, even if you got all the coins. There's a freaking revolving door with these coins.
Yep.
Yeah. I can't wait to find out what's like actually happening to the coins. That's such a there's obviously somebody in the church who's feeding him back out. And also Nicodemus has a traitor in his midst. And unless I'm forgetting something, I don't think we know who that is yet. And so those are two things revolving around that I'm really eager to find out. I liked this at the end, and we'll talk more about this scene in favorite moments too, but Shadow disabled Dresden, and Nick doesn't know that Harry like has gotten rid of his shadow, and he fakes him out.
Oh yes.
Apparently, wizards don't have a monopoly on arrogance.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Harry says, Lashiel's shadow doesn't live here anymore. The fallen have no power over me, and neither do you.
Like, it never even
let's fucking
so
go.
good.
Also,
man.
like,
so
it
good.
never even occurred to me that like Nicodemus would think Lashiel was still there. Can you imagine, like, if Lash was still in there, like, I probably would have forgotten about it, and that would have worked, and I would have been like, crap.
I know, but this
Right.
story would have been fucked at that point,
Yeah.
dude. Like, it'd be so different.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I mean that moment in itself where he almost gets Nicodemus with that the tie or whatever it is.
I mean, I guess we don't people at the end of Small Favor, like, it's not fully confirmed, but he's Nicodemus was in a tough spot.
He's in a bad spot. Yeah, man.
Sure.
Harry really made it hard for him to continue on.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so before we finish up with favorite moments, I just want to say
favorite quotes.
No, before we go into favorite moments.
Okay.
Molly committed dinner. And around that time, aided and abetted by Sanya.
Yeah, it's so funny.
Like Molly committed murder because she's.
There was one thing. There was like Harry said. There was like one thing that Molly could do. Was it just giving him a Coke? Or there was one thing that he was like, Molly could do this, but she can't cook me eggs or something like that.
Right? Yeah. She like.
I think it was coffee.
Coffee. Yes, Molly can do coffee, but she can't do anything else. Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, she burnt a hard-boiled egg somehow.
Yeah.
All right, we are wrapping up here with favorite moments. So let's just go through them. We don't have to do all of them. Again, feel free to take whichever ones.
Yep. So the first one that I see here is again the very first part of the story. It's where Harry's out throwing snowballs with the Michael Charity kids. And they get attacked, and Charity comes back with this nail gun, right? And she's shooting steel nails at people. And in these notes, Spencer says that's not how nail guns work.
Right.
Listen, hold on.
Okay.
I agree with you. But if you hold the safety on a nail gun, I have fucking shot steel nails all over, dude. All over.
It won't stick into anything.
They sure did.
They sure did. They're fairies. They're metal. It's steel. Doesn't need to stick in them.
Well, no, but I'm besides that, like I'm saying, like if I've held the safety on a gun and I've shot it at wood and it's not very far, but it's gone in there.
Sure, but like also, like, was it hooked up to a compressor? Like
it was at the time, yeah. But I guess I know. Yes, yeah. For her, we don't know.
It's like did she have?
If it's electric,
I mean, keep in mind, it's probably a really good nail gun considering Michael's job is he builds houses.
Yeah, but like she would have to like have the compressor in one hand, have the compressor attached to an extension cord.
Yeah,
have the hose that goes to the gun.
I totally get where you come from, dude. I totally get where you come from because I think you're absolutely right. If the setup's not right, it wouldn't happen. And I guess my experience is like when I was younger, like my dad had a fancy air compressor with a nail gun. I would push the safety and just bing, bing, fire it a couple times and it worked great. But you'd have to have all the shit ready for that to happen.
Yeah, it was just one of those moments where
you're like, that's not how that works in real life. I'm
like, I work in construction.
Yeah, you're like, I know that doesn't happen like that. Yeah.
We talked about Murphy lawyering the gruff, the lady praying in the dark. I legit, okay, so just go back to this for a second. I legit like teared up at this scene. I lost a friend who was actually my roommate like 3 weeks ago, and I feel like we all kind of have these moments, whether you're religious or not. You have whatever moment that like really scares you, and maybe you just like kind of send a prayer up hoping somebody will hear it, and kind of that thing of like, I don't know if you can hear me, I don't know if you're real, but if you can, like, help me. And then for Michael to come in and just be like, he does hear you and he does care. Like I was just like, I was driving in my car and I was just like crying, like, oh my God. Like,
I totally agree. I think that the confirmation of faith in any scenario and book where it's so clear as it was portrayed is really just utterly powerful in any way, shape, or form that you see it.
Yeah. For real.
Yeah, I'm sure. Like I still think the scene's fire.
Yeah, like, it's really good.
Definitely.
And it leads to then the scene later of Harry being like, I want you to know, like, Michael makes you look really good.
Yes.
Like even better.
Yeah.
Oh, so I have that
He's
quote
got
right
it.
Here.
He's ready.
That makes this quote even better. Yeah.
Let's hear it.
Dude, I have it bookmarked here
Hell
because
yeah.
I thought it was such a good monologue. Okay, so he says, I know that we don't talk much, I said, speaking out loud to the empty room, and I'm not looking for a pen pal, but I thought you should know that Michael makes you look pretty good. And if after all he's done, it ends like this for him, I would think less of you. He deserves better, and I think you should make sure he gets it. If you want to bill it to me, I'm fine with that. It's no problem. He goes on to say, and while we're on the subject, I think the rules you've got set up suck. you don't get involved as much as you used to, apparently. And your angels aren't allowed to stick their toes, not allowed to stick their toes in unless the bad guys do it first. But I've been running some figures in my head. And when the Denarians pulled up those huge signs, they had to have a lot of power to do it. A lot of power. More than I could ever have had, even with Lashiel. Archangel power. And I can only think of one of those guys who would have been helping that crew. It's like, ooh.
Yep, that's powerful, man.
They got Lucifer on their side.
For real,
and
dude.
I'm sure he's going to come out to play at some point. And I'm so... I don't know if excited is the right word, but
no,
like,
you're ready
like
for it
when,
though.
like
you're ready
when,
for it, dude.
when Lucifer, yeah, dude. when Lucifer shows up in the Dresden Files, it's gonna be a
shit's gonna get
day.
wild, dude.
Bad
wild.
day.
I mean, like big Pocket trilogy. Book one's called
Hell's
Bells.
Yeah.
Maybe book one's called Stars and Stones. Whatever. Also, follow up to that. Read the Warrior. I know I'm saying it again.
Yeah.
But
I will, dude. I will. Like right now. Right when we're done, I'm gonna read this shit.
Good. I'm proud of you. Good work. Because that's actually like Michael's retirement. Like seeing like this is actually like this is what we got.
So is this story in like briefcases?
It's in Side Jobs, first one.
Side Jobs, dude. Because I've listened to Side Jobs and I just can't remember what story this is.
I believe
it's the one. It's the one where there's that old army vet who's trying to. Isn't he trying to?
He's trying to take the swords,
dude. Right, no, I haven't heard of that. I definitely have not heard that.
Yeah, it's really good.
Okay,
it's like
I need
it's
to listen
really
to
good.
it. Yeah, I haven't heard that. I've listened to what I thought was all Side Jobs and briefcases, but apparently I have not heard all of it.
No, I mean you've probably read it, but just don't remember.
Yeah, I'm sure. Like once you start reading it, you'll be like, you might.
I hope so, but like that just sounds so far off from what I can remember. Because like I can remember parts of all the stories of briefcases, all of Side Jobs, but that one does not. Anyways.
Also, Uriel visits as a janitor named Me.
Yes.
The second appearance of someone named Jake in the series, by the way.
Right.
First was in Blood Rights.
Oh yeah. Yeah. The porn star.
One of them, yeah. Also, I love Uriel's response to what Harry said, where he's like, maybe he did respond, just as Mab said, the most subtle and like she thinks the most dangerous.
He gave you a hand.
Yeah, maybe I gave you a hand. Yeah.
So we talked about the aquarium scene, which was amazing. We talked about Harry, where's your blasting rod? Marcone grabs Ivy. He wants her to go up first in the helicopter,
which is awesome.
And so all of these next ones kind of flow together. So Marcone picks up Ivy, goes up into the helicopter, and then Harry notices that Guard is taking an interest in Michael, and Harry doesn't misinterpret this, but he chooses the wrong order of events.
Warrior. Hello. Does not choose the wrong order.
Okay. Well, so he
I would agree with Spencer. So what do you think? Because I would totally agree with Spencer.
If he went up first, he would have died.
But Guard was looking at Michael. Guard was looking at Michael and saying, and that was the vision
Michael
that he
would have
had.
died on the island.
But he
no. because what I'm thinking is instead Harry goes up first. He's got his cloak that stops bullets.
I mean, my source on this is Uriel. So Uriel says like, okay,
what is
we can
Uriel
edit
say?
mild the warrior spoilers, not directly for the plot.
That's
for the
fine.
warrior.
Go for it. It's
Uriel
fine.
straight up tells Harry that if he'd gone up first, he would have died in the lift, and Michael would have died on the island.
Oh, I don't know that.
Shit. Okay. Yeah, we didn't know that.
So yeah, Guard is probably looking at Michael like, crap, he's gonna die on this island.
Yeah.
Right.
But then Harry makes it so he doesn't kind of. Well, I mean, he gets shot, but he
still
doesn't
gets
die.
like messed up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, that means Michael confirmed tougher than Harry because Michael survived and Harry would have died.
Yeah.
Well, dude, it was
or Michael has better healthcare. I guess the machines. It's hard to do surgery on Harry.
Yeah.
Not a good Constitution score though.
Well, it's crazy how what did they say it was like a BB bouncing around in a tin can or something?
Yes, that's it. Yeah, the bullet within his body.
He's wearing his armor and it just goes bing bing.
Bullet made it in and just bounced around his fucking cavities, dude. Yeah.
That's so fucking nuts.
Yeah.
And Michael doesn't quite have like he doesn't have the versatility that Harry has to get out of the island.
Yeah.
No, he's just got that's it. He's got the helicopter.
He's got
that's it.
Move one is frontal assault. And you know, he's pretty damn good at frontal assault.
Yeah.
But he doesn't exactly have move two. Harry's a lot more versatile.
Well, he just Michael doesn't have shields, dude. Michael doesn't have a magic shield he can put up, right? Like
that's another thing I was thinking. I'm like, couldn't Harry have like shielded him
he
somehow?
Could have.
Or like
he could have.
Probably like reaction time. It's probably pretty hard to put a shield like that far away.
Yeah.
We've seen him project shields, so like
he could.
I think it was just like kind of spur of the moment. Like if he maybe would have thought of it, but at the time, like he was getting shot at, bro. Like he was getting shot at, and he was like ducking in sand, and like I could have never thought about that. So I don't blame him for that.
Sure.
And it's also like it's a not default, and he's not as good at like raw magic.
That's true. Like invocation.
Really effective.
Yeah, he's got to have focuses.
And so he probably like he could. It would probably take a lot more conscious
time than they had because they had
compared to just like his normal shield around himself.
Yeah.
Right.
And then we have Gruff approaching and like,
and
like how big is this dude?
Dude, I remember when I first read this book, I was like so freaked the fuck out that this guy was going to be a skyscraper, dude.
Yeah.
Just so tall.
Dude, this was a fantastic scene. And like when he kills Magog or whatever.
Magog, yeah.
And then, dude, I love this scene where they're both like laughing, but the Gruff's laugh sounds like hee-haw, hee-haw. And it makes Harry laugh, which makes
even more. Yeah, it's just like
forth.
Consensual laughing ring.
Oh my god, it was so funny. That had
also, Harry's a good thing he got the donut strategy because Harry's pretty good, but Gruff would mess him up.
Oh, dude, yeah, he was so powerful.
Bro, Gruff killed Magog.
That would be another
Magog
levels
snap
to
of his
this.
fingers, dude.
Yeah, I mean,
he just snapped his fingers and Magog's dead and there's shit growing out of his corpse. Like that's all it. It's all
it's like Gruff's taking out people in like senior councils.
Like, easy.
Right. That would be
he's got like 4 stoles, dude. He's got like 4 capes from the senior council. I'm pretty sure what Harry said.
Different divisions. Harry's like a welterweight. And Gruff's like light heavyweight. And he's like a really good light heavyweight.
Yeah, definitely.
That would not have gone well. So Harry gets the best favor ever from Summer. No one has topped
Jelly donut, baby.
What Harry got. And
the
jelly donut.
Yeah.
The quote, likest thou jelly within thine donut?
And frosting of white and sprinkles.
Frosting of white.
He's like, nay, but prithee with sprinkles upon it instead, and frosting of white. And I'm like, dude, this is like one of the most famous scenes in the series.
Dude, absolutely.
Next to like the zombie dinosaur. Those are like the two the 2 big ones. And it's one of the most popular quotes, along with like the building was on fire and it wasn't my fault. It's just so epic. It's
That's how you loophole, folks.
Right. Yeah, so we get back to the whole thing with Nicodemus happens in the ship. Harry like gets him with the noose and it messes him up. Harry gets off the island.
Almost fucking kills him, dude.
Yeah.
Comes
And
close.
Yeah.
Michael is like broken beyond like almost any reasonable repair. There's bone fragments in his heart, and even Charity is like they hurt his
like
heart.
kidneys were destroyed, or like one of his livers
Lost a
is just
kidney.
or his liver, not one of his liver. But.
Yeah. And broken ribs, broken pelvis, like he is one of his ocular cavities may not recover. And then this is the scene where you were talking about, Jake, where Harry says, "I'll go," and she says, "No, family stay."
And I love it because like Harry is going because he assumes Charity doesn't want him around.
Right.
Like he's not going because he's like, I don't want to spend time here.
Right.
And Charity's just like, not just being like, Charity's not saying like, your family, you have the obligation to stay.
Right.
She's like, no, you're part of the family now. Like you get to stay, not you have the obligation.
I'm so glad that you said that, because when I heard that happen, I had the same feeling. It was like it was earned respect. Like Charity had gotten past the point where she understands, like, no, like if you leave right now, or not that, but she's like, you are family, like you need to stay here. He would do the same for you. Like she knew, it was past the point of just like, you're the guy that gets my husband hurt. Like, fuck you. It's more like I know what you're about. Like I understand, and you need to be here.
That was I was literally like listening to that like in bed last night, and when she said that, I'm just like crying.
I try to avoid my past midnight listens of Dresden Files just for that reason.
Dude, last night I was like passing out last night, and I kept listening to that final chapter.
Oh man,
I listened to it over and over and
so
over
bad,
because
dude.
I kept falling asleep. I'm like, where was I?
Did you run out of tears
all the way
or what?
back. No, I mean, like, I think it was like after that part, it was like that final like epilogue kind of area. And I kept having to rewind it over and over and over. And finally I was like, I'll just do it in the morning.
That's why I don't listen to audiobooks when I'm about to fall asleep. I just don't do it. I used to try, man, and I would like set my timer for like 30 minutes. Where it would like go off and say, hey, you listen to 30 minutes, and I would wake up and there's been 6 hours that's gone by, and I'm like, fuck.
We talked about Uriel visiting Harry. Confirms that Harry now has Soulfire. Uriel is confirmed as a Watcher. And it looks
not
like
a Watcher, the Watcher.
The Watcher,
that's a pretty big difference.
And Harry, or it looks like Harry has drawn the attention of them after defeating Lashiel. So this is kind of where I feel like this is where he starts like stepping into the big leagues, even though not really until like after changes. But like this is where like it kind of starts, where some angels are like, oh, I see you. So and then Lucio wakes up Ivy, and Harry comforts her. Ivy
that was such a sweet moment, dude. Like he just holds her tight and says, I'm here. Like you're okay, I'm here. That was so heartfelt.
And she says, I got your letter. I know we didn't talk about that earlier, but that was a great moment where he's like writing this letter. He's like, don't believe anything they say.
Like, I've got you. I'm coming for you, Ivy. I'm coming for you.
Right.
It was pretty clever of Harry, by the way.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Sure.
Like, most definitely.
Like Harry's an idiot, but he's also pretty smart. He's smart in such a particular way. Like he's really tricky. He's resourceful.
Right.
But he's also like really dense sometimes.
For sure.
He's an idiot, but he's my idiot, damn it.
Hell yeah.
I'm allowed to make fun of him, but if other people make fun of him, I'm like, what did you
right.
say about my boy?
Right.
Yeah.
And he has a teddy Glock.
Yes,
that's right, dude.
Kincaid comes in and cuddles up with Ivy and puts his gun on his
chest. He like cocks it, makes sure the safety's off, and puts it on his chest.
Safety first. Has to be able to shoot people really quick if someone comes in.
Yeah. So then we got Sanya gives Harry Amarachius for safekeeping. It looks like Marcone has Thorned Namshiel's coin.
Thorned Namshiel, well, suspected.
Yeah. And then Marcone says that he doesn't have it, but Harry wonders if he's lying for the first time. Which Marcone doesn't make a habit of. So when he does lie, it's extra believable.
I mean, and Harry's the same. Like Harry doesn't directly lie very often, and I mean,
and he even says, he's like, I don't have the intellectual brain power to lie. Like I can't hold these lies. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, Mab's a good example because like Mab tricks people and gets ahead and she can't lie.
Yeah.
Like great example of like, you know, truth is often more powerful than lies.
Yeah.
Right.
And I love when Sonya gives Harry Amarachius because it's a great example of Harry's bias in like the opposite direction where he's like, but I did like, yeah, like I did such a great job before.
Right.
And Sonya's like, what? Yeah, you did a good job. Like you
Yeah.
gave it out when like it was needed for a mission. Like you kept
Yep.
it safe. Like
Yeah.
That was the point. That's the
like
point.
5-star review on Yelp as a quality sword.
Yeah.
And Harry's like, wait, I did well at something. You notice every time Harry runs into another wizard, like he's always like, but their magic's really more impressive. And it's like,
Right.
Harry, that's just because the stuff you find easy, like they're good at the stuff you find hard. But,
Yeah.
like, they can't do the stuff you find
That's
easy.
right. It doesn't
Right.
make you different. Like,
Yeah.
Right.
Because he always like go find Harry running into any wizard throughout the series. He'll all like Elaine, Ramirez, basically anyone. He'll in except for like, you know, the one trick ponies. But for
Yeah.
people who are full-fledged wizards, he'll always like kind of imply that he thinks their magic's more impressive.
yeah.
Right. Right.
Come on, Harry. Give yourself a little credit.
Right.
Made a hand with Soulfire.
That's right.
That was
Exactly.
cool.
So the last one that I really want to hit on here is Harry checks in on Helen Beckett, aka Demeter.
Yep.
And I had actually forgotten about this scene. I posted on Reddit recently. I was like, whatever happened to Helen Beckett? Harry puts it together that she was the one who sold out Marcone, allegedly. He says that if she makes another move like that, it'll be obvious to Marcone. But for now, Marcone thinks that it's Torelli.
Yeah.
He tells her that he won't tell Marcone either way, but he'll want some insider info from her sometimes. And this is interesting because from what I remember, this is the last time we see her in the series. And so I kind of wonder if, you know, I wonder if maybe at some point Marcone does figure it out and kind of finishes her off quietly, because, you know, I don't feel like it's a huge spoiler for the next few books to mention that she is not in them.
Yeah.
She's such a major character.
Yeah, exactly.
But you know, with how prevalent she's been over the past couple books, I would expect her to be in some of the future books, but as far as I remember, she's not.
I don't remember either. Yeah.
So just interesting. I had forgotten that she was the one who sold out Marcone, and yet earlier in the book she was like you have to find him and bring him back safely.
Yeah.
So what's going on there?
Well, I think she was just trying to cover her ass, if anything.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I think, you know, she even said it in White Knight. She was like, you know, love and hate are not that
too different. Yeah.
They're both really intense feelings that are directed at one person. Hate can often turn into love. Love can often turn into hate. And they're very, you know, they shift back and forth quite a lot. And so, yeah, I'm that's one of the, I guess not mysteries, but that's one of like the plot points that I'm really looking forward to in future books, is the whole thing with Marcone and this little girl, you know, Helen's daughter.
Yep.
And then Helen like kind of dating Marcone, I guess. Just interested to see how that whole clusterfuck is.
Seems like a functional relationship.
Oh,
super functional.
Super functional. And then at the end we get Lucio and Harry at the dinner.
Yeah.
At the Japanese place. And yeah, good for them.
Yeah,
good
I
for
agree.
the soul.
Good for them.
Yeah, good for the soul. We didn't get much of Mouse in this book, Gabe.
Oh, we got Nicodemus being afraid of Mouse.
Yes,
that's true.
Thank you. Perfect. Yeah, and I mean, Mouse is always there. You know, he's got his back, and Nicodemus was terrified of Mouse. He's like, "What is that?
Right.
What do you have there?"
Right.
Yeah.
What do you?
But
have
he'll do anything for like a treat. So
yeah,
Mouse, such a good boy, and Harry's almost like he's scary when he's like kind of ignorant. People are like, is he managing to be this dangerous, like without knowing what's going on at all? Like, what's?
Yeah.
Harry's just like, it's just a dog.
Yeah, he's like, this is my dog, Mouse. Like, if you're scared, then you're fucked.
Yeah,
you're
right.
scared of a normal time.
Yeah,
You're just
yeah.
like, oh, that conversation is so good.
Yeah.
Tempest Fugue, Harry.
All right, let's go on to future book questions or popular
Oh,
theories.
yikes.
And these are ones just like little things I noticed that we still don't really have answered in the series, even up to Battlegrounds. So there are things that, you know, we're not spoiling anything for the rest of the series. These are things we don't even know. So I wonder if we'll see any karmic feedback from Guard seeing Michael dying when he doesn't actually die.
Because what's the point of having free will if not to spit in the eye of destiny?
Right.
But
And I
Destiny is one stone cold bitch.
Yeah. I kind of wonder if this like throws off something in the timeline, or I'm sure it like splits off a timeline or something. Because she also saw Harry die in Deadbeat in the alley. And I forget what she says, but she's like, he should have died. Like there will be consequences for this.
Yeah, that's when Marcone says, "What is the point of having free will if not to spit in the eye of destiny?" I love that line for Marcone.
Yeah.
And it gets brought up. It's one of the reoccurring lines.
Yeah.
And insultingly, if you Google Goodreads White Knight quotes, it's quoted in White Knight. I don't even think that quote's in White Knight, but it's in Deadbeat first.
Yeah.
So,
by the way, Gabe, I don't think that's how you spell Guard.
No, I fixed it. Look at it now.
No, her name is Gard.
Dude, that's so defeating to my mental faculties. Why the fuck would you spell guard like that, dude? Why the fuck would you spell it like that?
Because it's a name. It's not like a soldier guard.
Okay, well, every time the guard's portrayed is because she's a fucking guard.
She's an advisor, not like a guard.
She's a guard. No, she fucking guards.
It's fair
eye,
enough.
Dude.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's fair enough. I get it. Okay, so I guess what I'm wondering is, so she sees Harry die in Deadbeat, and he doesn't die. She says there's going to be consequences. Now she sees Michael die, but he doesn't actually die. And so I'm wondering, what does surviving a Valkyrie's
or like
death vision
or even how faithful is her vision?
Yeah,
seeing who's gonna die. That's
right.
a good question. Yeah.
Yeah, because now it's been defeated
twice. Yeah, exactly.
She's not got a great batting average here.
No.
Not gonna lie.
Yeah, but at the same time, like you have to respect the power of a Valkyrie, right? Like that's what they're known for. So it's like one of those things. Like, are they just defeating fate, and it's like utmost position, or is something
also
else
both
going
times it happens like because of her noticing it?
Yeah,
like Harry only sent Michael up first and causing Michael to barely not die because he saw Guard. Marcone only intervened because of Guard. So
yeah,
wonder if the consequences will happen to Harry or Guard or Michael or everyone.
Marcone. Yeah.
Or Marcone. Yeah.
Or Marcone actually as well. Yeah. Probably
whoever.
Everyone. You know, that's the Jim Butcher way.
Right. So then Harry notices a Calvin and Hobbes book in his basement. And he's like, I do not know where this came from. Like, I don't remember this being here. This is weird that it's here. And it's kind of a quick thing. But people have asked Jim Butcher about this before, and he's refused to answer.
He probably said, I'm not gonna tell you. I'm not gonna tell you.
Yeah. So I've never even caught this and
I haven't caught this either. This piqued my interest when I saw this. I've never noticed this one as well.
Yeah, because he's going down into his basement. It's when he's initially talking with Bob, and he's kind of going through. He's like looking for something. He's like, "What's this Calvin and Hobbes book? I've never seen this." And so people have theorized that it's like whoever fixed
Little Chicago
left it there.
Yeah.
And if that's a time traveling Harry, then it might be some time travel
which even I'll accept. And I don't like time traveling Harry.
Yeah.
Even I think that's like Harry hit Harry and Harry fixed it is kind of reasonable.
So I don't know why you don't like time traveling Harry. I love it. I love the idea of time travel.
I think that it can work.
I don't like it because it's people's answer to everything. It's like it's just but not all of these can be right. Like there's not enough pages in the time travel book for all of these to be right.
So here's the thing though. I agree with you. There's not enough room in that book for all of these to be like a time travel answer. But I think enough of them can be. And I have enough faith in Jim Butcher that it won't just be like a write-off, like, oh, it's time travel. Like I have faith that he will make it interesting.
There's only one I really don't like, which is that Cowl is time traveling Harry. So
Oh.
story, Harry, people have a magical signature. Cowl is someone whose magic Harry hasn't sensed before. Like, you can't disguise that magical signature.
I'd say I've never heard the theory that it was Harry. I've heard other theories that it was somebody else.
Yes, which
from
also,
Spencer.
Yeah.
Which also, by the way, he would recognize their magic. So, like, it's the boring answer.
Not this guy.
And we probably don't care right now, but I feel like it probably, like, if it gets revealed, we will.
But wouldn't you think that like magical signatures change? Like, let's say if you haven't known somebody for 40 years.
So like they would change a little bit, but they'd be recognizable. Which is, I used to actually think Cowl was like a mantle.
Yeah.
And I was like, maybe that's how Cowl survived in Deadbeat. Like, he didn't. He died. It's a mantle. But then in White Knight, Harry straight up says, like, no, it's the same person. He can tell by the magical signature.
Oh.
And like, okay, so the common ones, it's like, so it's not Ebenezer, it's not Harry, because he would recognize that. Also, just like for Ebenezer 50 years later, Ebenezer's pretty old.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
So it's kind of a boring answer, and I'm assuming we'll have a reason to care later. It's probably Simon Petrovich. It's probably the senior council member who died at the beginning of Summer Night. It just, like, he used Russian spells. He was like the kind of T1 heavyweight champion of the world at Wizard Magic with Ebenezer.
Yeah.
Harry'd never seen his magic. We are told he died, but he didn't actually die. Like,
right. Yeah,
it'd be cool if it's something better than that, but like, I'm preparing myself. It's probably just Simon Petrovich.
No, that makes sense. Yeah.
It needs some more setup, because it can't be like, if in the next book it's like, and Cowl is Simon Petrovich. Like, I'll be like, that's what I thought.
It'd be so Scooby-Doo.
Yeah,
99% of readers will be like,
kids.
Yeah, exactly. You meddling kids, come on.
All right, so we got to keep moving.
Yep, you're good.
So what? There's this quote here, and I'm just gonna say it. People can take from it what they will.
Okay.
What would Harry is wondering? What would it be like to be the Winter Knight? I could probably afford a house. Hell, even a big house, if not a castle. Moving on.
Yep. Yeah, I can't add much more to that, but I would say that it's important.
And so then before the podcast, we talked about, I had this question. So what's up with Mab speaking through Grimalkin? Do we ever get an answer to this? And you gave me a good answer, but we can't.
But it's
talk
cold day spoilers.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Right. All right, guys. Any other final thoughts?
I'm happy.
There's a Skin Game spoilers thing, but
can't do that. Too late.
Yeah. I'll mention it because it makes Small Favor rereads kind of cooler when you're thinking about it.
Okay. All right, man. Well, seriously, thank you for joining us for this. I know we went on significantly longer than I thought we would.
Well, if there's one thing I'm known for, and you should all know for this, I'm known for my really short, brief videos. All my discussions, I stay on topic.
Too.
Right.
I never have long videos.
Yeah. all of ours are like 30 minutes long.
Yeah, usually. Exactly. Yeah. Not even that, like 15, 20 minutes max,
yeah, It was only because of you that this went on for 2 hours.
I agree. It was my fault. I'm sorry.
No, seriously, I really appreciate you coming on. Like I said,
thanks for the invite.
I'd seen your videos and I was like, I got to get him on here. And so I'm really glad that we were able to make this work.
Yeah, it was great, dude. You got a lot of knowledge on the Dresden Files.
I've read it a couple times.
Yep. Yeah, which is great. I love that, man.
And I feel like you've also done the extracurricular, looking into
theories.
Interviews.
I have listened to basically every Jim Butcher interview.
Yeah.
And get annoyed when he gets asked the same questions.
Yeah.
His last interview, I got tilted because they were like fan questions.
Yeah,
there's an interviewer.
Ask new questions.
And the fans all asked new questions. Like, all the fan questions were really good. And then the interviewer had questions, and they were all ones that had been answered like 1,700 times. It's like, which character did more than you originally expected? Gee, I wonder if it's better. Yeah. How did you come up with the idea for the Dresden Files? I'm like, I could answer these.
Yeah, like any fan could tell you. Yeah, what interview was it? Was it a recent?
I don't remember.
Oh, okay. I feel like I've been slacking on keeping up with some of his more recent ones, if he's done any.
Yeah, he had a bunch like in 2020.
Yeah, I caught those for sure.
Yeah, this one I don't know, just came from an email. It's like, oh, Jim did this.
Yeah.
I'll listen.
All right. Well, yeah, thank you again for joining us. This has been awesome.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, guys, we are going to wrap it up there. Thank you so much for hanging out with us while we chat about Small Favor. Be sure to check out Jake's channel. He's got some great Dresden content up there, and he's very knowledgeable about it, as you can tell. We'll have all his stuff linked down below so you can keep up with him there. As far as upcoming episodes, we are here at the end of 2022, and what an incredible year it has been for the podcast. So probably one of the last things that you'll see from us this year is our 2022 wrap-up video, where we talk about our top 5 books that we read this year, as well as some honorable mentions, and just kind of looking back on some of the cool things that we got to do on the podcast. You will not want to miss this episode, I promise you. And we may just be in the same room for it for the first time all together for an episode.
I hope so, man. I hope so.
So you'll have to tune in to find out. Once again, thanks for hanging out with us and listening to us talk. Until next time, I'll be alone with my donut. There's certain things a wizard just has to do for himself.
I would like that.
Oh, that was good. That was good, man. I wasn't sure what you'd say for the end piece there, but that worked so well, dude. So well.
I'm hungry and I would like a donut.
I know, right?
Yeah, that's awesome.